It's time for Twit This Week in Tech. Tom Merritt makes his way back to the Twit stage. So glad to have him. Baratunde, Thurston, Ben Thompson. We're going to talk about the new Twitter, what's going on at Snapchat. We've got the latest from E3. I'm telling you, it's a jam-packed show. Stay tuned. Twit is next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for This Week in Tech is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. This is Twit This Week in Tech, episode 515, recorded Sunday, June 21st, 2015. Some slopes are slippery. This Week in Tech is brought to you by FreshBooks, the super simple cloud accounting and invoicing solution designed to help small business owners save time billing and get paid faster. Try it free at freshbooks.com/twit. And by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your used gadgets. Find out what your used iPhone, iPad, or other Apple product is worth at gazelle.com. And by Personal Capital. With Personal Capital, you get award-winning financial tools, unbiased advice, and a transparent view of all your investments. Best of all, it's free. To sign up, go to personalcapital.com/twit. And by Harry's. For guys who want a great shave experience for a fraction of what you're paying now, go to harrys.com. Get $5 off your first purchase by entering the code TWIT5 when you check out. It's time for Twit This Week in Tech, the show where we cover the week's tech news. We go to Brooklyn, New York, where Baratunde Thurston is dialing in. Hello, Baratunde. Hello, America.
This is Baratunde from Brooklyn/LA, but Brooklyn this time. Thank you, Leo, for having me back. It's good to
Nice to see
here.
you on the longest day of the year.
Is it? This is the solstice.
Solstice. Happy solstice. Nice. Hey, look who else is here. And he hasn't been, I think this is the first time in a year and a half, so I'm thrilled to welcome Tom Merritt. It's about time I got off my duff and invited you back. Hello, Tom.
I come to you from LA/just LA.
LA/LA. DailyTechNewsShow.com.
DailyTechNewsShow.com. Did I miss anything?
Nope.
No? All right.
And in fact, I'm going to have you do the week ahead a little later.
Great. I'll try to figure out what's
It's the same stuff as always. That's the funny thing.
I just go to TechBeam and rip it off, right?
Exactly. That's what I do.
Got it. By
the beard of Merritt. And we're hoping Ben Thompson from Taipei will join us of Stratechery fame. Ben is 6:20 in the morning there, so I think he may still be sawing logs. But after a very, very aggressive and party-filled Father's Day. So, by the way,
that dad bot on.
Nothing like the dad bot. Do not email me and say that it's not the longest day of the year, Mr. Laporte. It's always 24 hours the day. This is just merely the most sunlight of the year. Because I don't want to hear it. We already got the call.
I'm going to record a voice memo to sound just like that.
Oh, hello.
I'm going to set up a program to email it to you
Mr. Laporte,
every hour.
Perhaps
on the longest day.
You don't realize the day is always 24 hours. Actually, I think we have a leap second. Didn't we have a leap second June 1st? I believe we did.
Yes.
You got extra time? Does that mean we got a second or we lost a second?
Tom's going to explain.
I think they add one, right?
I don't know.
I think they add one in to catch up, and then it throws off some servers that are really super accurate.
Like padding? They just like padding
the
time?
And I think
it's like a leap day. You add a day to February to kind of get yourself back on track.
It's a very, it's because the atomic clocks are so accurate, and yet the Earth seems to be slowing down. So they were worried, in fact, that the leap second would cause chaos. It's coming. It was June 30th. Oh, it's coming up. It's in a week. It's June 30th. At June 30th at 23:59:59 GMT, the world's clocks will add 1 extra second. So you get 1 extra second to do anything you want with.
I'm going to yell.
And that's because the atomic clocks, which are very accurate, don't allow for Earth time, which is actually kind of off. But
Are you saying the Earth isn't perfect?
The Earth is far from perfect. We do this not infrequently. And they're worried that it could cause some issues with some super accurate servers and so forth. So that's coming up. Something to look forward to.
Stock up on your canned food. Make sure you have your 72-hour go bag.
It's a good question to consider. What would you do with an extra second?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then some servers, I think Google is splitting it up into tenths of a second and things. Like they're going to spread it out.
Why do they have to be different? Why can't they just do what everybody else is doing?
Because
they want to have 10 times as many problems.
They're better than all of us. So there have been problems in the past. I guess a couple of years ago this happened, and Qantas Airlines computers broke. And for a few hours they were down, and they had to check in passengers by hand.
Wait, how do you do that?
No one knows anymore. I showed up with my watch, and they said, I don't know what to do with that. Thank you.
I'll take the watch. Alaska Airlines the last time I flew to Seattle.
They checked you in by hand?
Yeah. It was weird.
Like they have like a manifest?
That little sliding thing. It was like that before.
They were like looking at your boarding pass, checking something off, like with a pen.
With like ink in it.
There's a little consumer word of warning. If that's happening, that means their computers are down. And that may be bad for the rest of the flight.
The real test of customer service.
I lived.
There have been 25 leap seconds since 2012.
Oh.
Who knew?
Then we do it all the time.
We do it all the time.
I thought this was like a once-in-a-lifetime, like a comet situation.
Apparently happens many times a year. I've been acting like it's a big deal. There's somebody under my table. I know.
Sensational media at its best. Way to go, Leo.
Yeah, I know. The Linux kernel folks aren't expecting any major issues. But Linus Torvalds said almost every time we have a leap second, something bad happens.
So it's like Y2K, like every couple of years. Basically, nothing happens.
Yeah. Linus says the reason problems happen in this space is because it's obviously rare and special. Not that rare. And testing for it in one circumstance might miss some other situation.
Whoa. Network time protocol freezes time during the leap second.
Right. You can imagine that that's not necessarily good. Frozen time.
Right?
Okay.
All right. I don't know how I got on that. I didn't even it wasn't even in our show notes. I know. It just came to my mind.
Time is a part of everything.
Mark Maron, who does a podcast. In fact, you probably all listen to it because it's a great, funny, very popular.
He invented podcasting, as far as from what I understand.
Somebody said he invented podcasting?
Tom is just trolling.
That makes me angry.
Just me being trolling. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No,
he did not invent podcasting, but he's a great comic. He's on IFC, going into his third year now, on the Independent Film Channel. Not a big cable channel, but, you know, who am I to mock? But he got the president to go to his garage on Thursday and do an interview. Wow.
Yeah, this is one of those things where it's clear that President Obama is following my lead. Having also gone to Mark Maron's garage and been an honored guest on that show.
How was that for you when you were talking to the man who talked to the president?
It's, I feel like I had a very deep and prying conversation with the president. Basically, transitive property of conversations. That's kind of how it works with WTF. So
it's like that old song. Tom will remember this. I dance with a man who danced with a girl who danced with the Prince of Wales.
Wow, no, I don't. I'm sorry.
I don't think anybody alive knows that song. What is that?
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Why did you try to drag Tom into it?
I just thought he would know.
I thought I would too.
Okay.
So what was the security sweep for you like, Baratunde, when you showed up? Was it similar to the president's,
Here's the thing. I parked my car on a hill.
Yeah.
And then I walked up to the door.
Yeah.
And I knocked on the door. And then they looked through the peephole.
Yeah.
Right.
And did a facial recognition scan with a built-in ID verification system based in various courtesies of the mind. Acknowledged me and then granted me access.
So when Mark says it's in a garage, is that really a multi-million-dollar studio?
It's in a garage, dude. Like it's in a garage filled with books,
with crap,
a cat,
yeah,
like a real one. And then there's all kinds of mugs everywhere. It's a bit disheveled. It is not a crack studio that he's pretending is some like earthy, grounded, underground. Like it feels like a bunker.
Wow.
It feels legitimately underground. It's very cool, but it's not a fancy place. It works really well, and you feel like you're in somebody's garage where they've like stored their life.
He gave a little interview to the New York Times after the event. So apparently it was a little bit like that scene from E.T. where they quarantine the house and they've got a tent and a tube going all the way out, and they've got federal agents with guns, or if you saw it later, without guns. The president's car pulled up into the tent.
Right.
And then he emerges invisible to the outside world because everybody knows.
Right? They have to decontaminate him so they can keep Marc Maron safe. That's why they.
And everybody knows where he is, and everybody knows where Marc Maron's garage is. So I think the presumption is, there's going to be a lot of people looking. So you cannot see the president. He gets out, emerges, goes down this tunnel into the garage. Maron said that they talked a little bit about, of course, here's the obligatory selfie, by the way. That's embarrassing.
It's pretty good camera quality. Wonder what phone he's
using. Do you think the president knew what WTF stands for?
I'm sure he did.
Okay.
Yeah.
He wants to be hip, right? He's not running for anything.
He's like the coolest president we've ever had. I don't think you need once in front of that. He's a pretty smooth operator in a non-creepy way. Like Bill Clinton was smooth, but he was also dirty.
He was a little weird.
Like,
so Clinton did, remember Clinton did Arsenio and played the saxophone.
That's right. That's right.
That was for that time, I guess that was the Arsenio was the Marc Maron.
Yeah, the Arsenio Hall show.
Yeah.
He looked pretty cool, but then he also was like a philanderer constantly. Right. It was less cool.
And remember that Obama also did Zach Galifianakis' podcast or whatever.
Between Two Ferns on Fuck or Die. That's right.
Galifianakis, remember this, asked him, how does it feel to be the last black president? And Obama said, what did he say? He said, how about that Hangover 3?
Yeah. I mean, that was really well done.
That was brilliant.
I some disclosure. I have, I guess it's a disclosure / humble brag. I don't know which side of the spectrum.
Did you write that joke?
No. I'm going much lower than that. I have just interacted with and done some meetings with the public engagement office at the White House. Basically advised them in the past on how they think about communicating with the public. And what's fascinating, this White House is like came of age really in a digital media era. Bush just missed it. And the President Obama, like Snapchat's here, YouTube is full on, wireless networks. So we used to count on the official media, the formal credentialed media, to relay messages from the executive branch and to interrogate them on our behalf. And now that is not the case anymore. The White House publishes a whole bunch of its own stuff. They have primary outlets on all these social channels. But then they also go to niche media to try to get their message out. I mean, the First Lady has done all this stuff around her Let's Move initiative, targeting iVillage and like very particular communities. It's the equivalent of doing like local press back in the day.
So they talk to you and they say, what would your advice be? Because you're obviously a millennial and you're hooked into all of this. And
I told him to come on Twit. That was basically
and he didn't
advice.
Listen.
Not yet.
He instead spoke to a Twit.
We did one of these meetings, Leo. If you remember, when I was still at Twit, I went down to Mountain View and met with a representative from the White House earlier, obviously a couple of years ago,
really?
to talk about video on the internet.
Really?
I think you couldn't make it for some reason or something. So I went down, and it was me, the guy who was doing Ivy. Do you remember that service that got sued out of existence because they were just rebroadcasting? There were a couple of people from YouTube there, a couple of Google legal representatives. It was really interesting because they were just kind of fact-finding. They wanted to know, like, what are your concerns? What are the issues that you face trying to get your message out on the internet? And I think they were also collecting information for themselves for what Baratunde is talking about.
Here's a picture of the president talking to Mark. Baratunde, does it look like he cleaned up the studio a little bit?
It actually does.
Yeah.
The piles are more orderly in this shot than I remember. Yeah.
A little tidied there.
But it's as cramped as I remember. He didn't overdo it. I think he probably swept and like shuffle the papers to get the stacks lined up a little better.
Secret Service probably did that when they came through.
Would you mind if we put this guitar over here, sir? I think.
Do you mind if we vacuum up this dust?
What is this? Is this poison? What is this?
We'd have it checked.
Jeez. Of course, New York Times interviewed Mr. I'm going to call him Mr. Maron now. Mr. Marin, right after the show.
Sir Marin.
You finished speaking with the president a short while ago. How are you feeling? How did it go? Marin said, I feel good. They did talk about, of course, the Charleston killings had happened the day before on Wednesday. So they talked, you know, they had some serious conversation. The thing about Marin is he likes, correct me if I'm wrong, but just from listening to the show, but you know better than I, Baratunde, he likes to really kind of talk about you as a human.
Yeah, his is not a topical current events show. His is an examination of the dark recesses of your soul.
Yeah.
And it's like a mix of a confession booth and like a support circle and an interrogation and like hanging out with a funny person, all wrapped up in one. So
he's so funny. I think
he's
Mark is
very much
hysterical.
into like your story and your traumas, if you're willing to share some of those, because he identifies a lot with the darkness within.
He mentions
his
in the
podcast should be called The Darkness Within.
It should be, although WTF ain't bad either.
No,
he mentions in the interview with the New York Times that he used to be, I didn't know this, a radio talk show host, a commentator. And he says, I just lost interest in politics. I don't follow it anymore. He said, so I didn't think of political questions to ask the president. I was going to do it my way, engage in a personal way. But he knows all the tricks, says Marin. He's the president. I wasn't going to put anything over on him by acting more comfortable than I was. But it was weird. He came over. He made me very comfortable very quickly. He was very engaged. He was looking forward to having a nice chat. And I think I steamrolled into the conversation very intensely, very quickly, like I do sometimes, especially when I'm a little bit nervous. They asked him, the Times asked him, how did this happen? He said, well, you know, we've been having these conversations between my producer and the White House. And then over the last month or so, it became clear like it might happen. And then Mark says, but where am I going to do it? Do I go to the Oval Office? Do I go to his hotel? They told him, no, he wants to come to your garage. So that's pretty wild. Big Secret Service. There were snipers on my neighbor's roof, a sniper on my garage roof, LAPD around the perimeter, 40 Secret Service people. They asked, and this I was kind of interested in this question. Were you given any guidelines or restrictions about what you could discuss with the president?
Right,
and Marin said, no guidelines, no restrictions. And we had final edit. Wow.
I hope he adds some stuff into that final edit.
Final doctoring.
Yeah.
That's really, I feel that's, I couldn't talk to, you know, Bill Gates, you want to interview Bill Gates, they give you the questions, they approve the questions, they want final edit. That's why I've never interviewed Bill Gates. I never would put up with that.
I assume it's because it's a political public figure. Laws are different about that sort of person versus a CEO.
Oh, you have a good point. Yeah, you can't manage it that way, can you?
Yeah.
Huh, that's a great question. I wonder, though, because I imagine that maybe they just trusted him ultimately to be respectful, even if he wasn't like carrying the president's line. But
well, Tom, that's why you and I didn't get the interview.
Yeah,
right. That's my story.
I don't think there's any laws that would prevent a communications department of a public figure from trying to manage an interview and be like, no, you can't ask about that. I'm pretty sure elected officials do that all the time.
I can't wait to hear. It's not out yet, right? It'll come out.
It'll come out on Monday. This week. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an access issue. They're basically saying we're not going to make you give pre-approved questions because if that got out, it would look bad.
Right.
So we're willing to take the risk. And you're right, Leo. They must have just trusted, like, well, the situation will be such that, you know, we won't run into any hot water, especially if they know that Merritt doesn't really talk about politics.
Right.
Yeah.
It was probably an astute choice, wasn't it?
The other thing, I mean, when they partnered pretty heavily, there was a man who was in the public engagement office named Brad Jenkins. He now runs Funny or Die's D.C. office. They have a new office down there.
Oh, wow.
And he was a big part of connecting the White House to the L.A. community, the Hollywood community, and especially comedians. And a lot of the videos that came out for Obamacare that Funny or Die did, they ended up driving enrollment. Like they were trying to reach that community of young people who hang out and watch funny videos online. And that's not going to be drive time radio. And that's not going to be ABC News or NBC Nightly News. So they're, I think that part of their strategy is probably, you know, Merritt has an audience that they want this president to be exposed to. Maybe he's doing a closing lap too of just like who have I not touched?
He's not running, so it's not like you know. I can understand as a candidate you might be reaching out to young people. When he did the Two Ferns interview, he was promoting his
that was Obamacare. Yeah,
the ACA.
Right.
So, and I've seen you know, youth get out the vote kind of stuff with MTV and things like that. But he's got no axe to grind here.
Maybe he's just a fan.
Maybe he's a fan. I like that.
Awesome.
Let's just say that.
He's in his senior spring.
Right.
And he's checking off his bucket list. Like, you know, I want to be on WTF.
Yeah.
I can do that as the president.
I can now do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome. In the United States of America.
You should start doing other stuff, you know, skydiving and like.
Does it say anything about
cutting in line?
Yeah, hike the Appalachian Trail.
I'm going to carry a wallet with money. Does it say anything about podcasts that I mean, this is a big. I think this is a big deal for podcasts, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, you got Serial and then this. So the question is,
I think
did the president kill? Hey,
I think podcasts are going through a renaissance right now. That's what I think. Hey, let's take a break. I want a love letter from more like a breakup letter from Taylor Swift to Apple, and a lot more coming up. Tom Merritt's here. It's great to have him from the Daily Tech News Show, DTNS. DailyTechNewsShow.com. Baratunde, Snapatunde. Last time you were on with Bilton, you said, "Oh yeah, I'm doing a Snapchat all the time," and you still are. The story that's up now. And by the time most of your people hear this, it will be gone because that's the nature. That's
of
why
Snapchat.
I don't do it.
I'll probably archive this one on my YouTube channel or my website.
Oh, you can?
Yeah, you can export the stories that you make, not the messages as easily, but it'll create a MP4 file of the length of a full play of the story, as if the user had depressed their thumb through the whole thing. I created some art. I created like psychedelic Snapchat art last night, and it's pretty amazing. In fact, I'm gonna try to get a screenshot you can show. Or actually, you can show it right now. You're holding it.
I'm showing it right now. Ooh, wow! Now I hate that I have to keep my thumb on the thing. Wait a minute.
Do what you were doing before.
Yeah.
Hold it down. Yeah. Look at that. Now tap with your index finger somewhere else on the screen. No, keep your finger depressed. Now tap elsewhere while that finger's depressed with another finger.
Really? You think this is a good medium, huh? Wow.
Right? Look at that.
Wow. Wow. Let's play the music.
Who are you shooting?
You know, I'd be kind of glad that does disappear after a day.
Tom, to answer your question, I had my phone. I threw it to my monitor through Apple TV, and I was just curious what would happen if I tried to make a Snapchat of what my camera saw, which was what my camera was seeing. So I created this Hall of Mirrors effect.
Wow.
There's like fractal effect, basically, because there's a latency between each image. So the longer you focus on what you're focusing on, it just creates this tunnel effect. And then I played around with filters and rotation angles and things like that.
I think Katie Couric already did that on the Yahoo. I may be wrong, but I think I saw her.
That's a legitimate.
You're missing
LOL.
this.
Was your top still spinning after?
This is kind of cool. But this isn't typical of what you do, right?
No, I was just I had some time last night, and I was just messing around. So I don't know, if that's just a one trick thing, but I'd love to see other people play with basically mirror effects and kind of looking.
Dollar bill.
Yeah. I made it rain, and then I took the money away.
You made it rain, baby. That is.
And then you create this like domino effect when
crazy.
You make things
now,
fall.
and I can't watch that again, right? That's it.
Yeah, you can. You have to scroll down. So whatever you just did, don't do that.
I don't understand. You're young left. People, you and your crazy Snapchat.
Hold your hand. I got Nick to thank for this. Nick got me. So I haven't been on Twit without him in a long time. I feel like I'm cheating on Nick Bilton right now.
Why didn't we? Was there a reason we didn't get Nick on here?
I don't. I
just chance.
Personal animosity is the reason.
He doesn't like you anymore, and he doesn't want to. No, I don't know. We should. I just feel like you got to mix it up sometimes. You don't always.
I love mixing.
Baratunde doesn't have to go with Bilton.
No. I'm my own man.
You're your own man.
How can you have any Baratunde if you haven't had your Bilton?
You haven't had your Bilton. Our show today brought to you by Fresh Books. By the way, John really liked that, Tom. Anytime you do a little Pink Floyd in there.
Of course he did.
Little Roger Waters. He's going to be happy. The episode brought to you by FreshBooks. If you run your own small business, anywhere you charge for your time and expertise, that means you're busy. I hope you're working hard. And the last thing you want to do is come the end of the month, open Word or Excel and make invoices. FreshBooks makes it easy. It's the super simple cloud accounting solution designed just exactly for small business owners like you. You can create and send invoices easy as pie, beautiful, professional-looking invoices. You can also use their phone app to capture and manage expenses, keep track of hours, get it right into the invoices. It's so easy to use. Looks so good. FreshBooks has done some studies of FreshBooks users. They found out that FreshBooks users save around 16 hours a month on the administrative tasks. 16, that's like 2 work days a month. But more importantly, you get paid on an average of 5 days faster. That's because that invoice has a pay button that you can use, or your client can use to pay you, and they want to pay you. If they don't, then, of course, FreshBooks will automatically send additional reminders, which is nice. But because you can accept credit cards and all the online payment systems, it makes it just so much easier for them to pay you. And if you ever need help, the FreshBooks support rock stars are there at the offices, ready to help you. They're fantastic. I used it for a long time, and I really loved it. I want you to try it free for 30 days. Join the 5 million folks over the last 10 years who have used FreshBooks. Go to freshbooks.com/twit, and if they ask you how you heard about it, just say twit in that little form there. Start your 30-day free trial today. We thank them so much. Freshbooks.com for supporting this episode of Twit. Freshbooks.com. Your 30-day trial awaits. Freshbooks.com. Yeah, you use them?
So here's a segue, Leo, from that to one of the stories for the day that I think is pretty perfect. You talked about FreshBook facilitating faster payments. Clients want to pay you. This makes it easier, unless, of course, that client is Apple and you are a musician.
In that case,
in which case they
you can wait 90 days.
Exactly. It's like the anti-FreshBooks.
So Taylor Swift on her Tumblr writes, to Apple, love Taylor. But like many Taylor Swift songs, this is really about breaking up. I'll write this to explain why I'm holding back my album. She's really getting good at this. Remember, Taylor held back 1989 from Spotify because they wouldn't let her take it off the free tier. I'm holding back my album 1989 from the new streaming service, Apple Music. I feel this deserves an explanation, because Apple has been and will continue to be one of my best partners in selling music. This is kind of weird. And creating ways for me to connect with my fans. I respect the company and the truly ingenious minds that have created a legacy based on innovation and pushing the right boundaries. I'm sure you are aware, she goes on to write, that Apple Music will be offering a free 3-month trial to anyone who signs up for the service. That starts, by the way, at the end of the month, next month. No, this month. It should be any day now, right? June 29th?
Oh, it's very close to when we get that extra second. You could spend it on Apple Music.
Apple Music, an extra. So the problem is Apple's going to give you a free trial for 3 months on both the Mac, on iOS when you get 8.4. Not on Android. No free trial when it comes out on Android. But Windows, I guess, will also get a free trial. And Apple has said, and Taylor says, I'm sure you know, Apple will not be paying writers, producers, or artists for those 3 months. I find it to be shocking, she says, disappointing, and completely unlike this historically progressive and generous company. This is not about me. And she obviously understands that people are going to say, oh, Taylor, you're rich, you're being... She says, no, I'm not being... These are not the complaints of a spoiled, petulant child, she writes. She says, I'm on my 5th album. I can support myself, my band, my crew, and entire management team just by playing live shows. But, and she makes this, I think, an excellent point. This is about the new artist or band that has just released their first single and won't be paid. I mean, imagine you just come out with your hit single, and for 3 months, people can listen to it for free on
and when you think about, and I don't know what the curve looks like for music. Is there a power curve, basically, a play volume, like it spikes in the first few weeks or months, and then it probably tapers off as people discover other artists. And so you're probably not missing out in a year's period. You may be missing out on more than a quarter of the compensation. That first quarter of release may represent a half of your plays for that year on this platform. So I like the Dear John letter that Taylor Swift wrote Apple. It felt a little political. It felt like a politician goes into like a small town or a company and like the good people of Iowa are always, hardworking, ingenious minds. You've contributed so much to the American economy. And then they, follow that with, ripping them a bit. But the case for the new musician I felt was strong and unique. It wasn't the way Metallica was like way back in the day. We're like, you're stealing our money. And it's hard to feel sympathy for someone you assume is very highly compensated. So I felt like she was taking a hit on behalf of people who don't have a voice. It was actually quite a political move. I like it.
She says she's not trying to engender any bad blood with Apple, but she's saying you're not out of the woods.
Well, she's a little too cautious about that, really, right? I mean, come on. You don't have to kiss Apple's ass.
I think if you recognize as an artist the direct relationship you have, based on the phone you're using, like she probably wrote that on an Apple device.
Of course,
you know what I mean? Like,
right. Yeah.
So she is grateful for that. iTunes has changed the whole game and maybe allowed someone like her to rise. Like them and Google, especially together, have probably changed the total relationship. But Apple takes credit for it. And then her other big point, I think, is look, you're asking the weakest among us to subsidize your product launch. And so like the U.S. Treasury has $50 billion on hand. Apple has $160 billion on hand. You think they can't afford to offer the artists on whose back this service depends? Like without musicians, Apple Music is just an empty vessel. So she's like, look, why don't you, if you want this product to succeed so much, you invest in it. Don't force your suppliers, like the heart of your product, to make that investment. And without even asking, too.
Here's my guess about what happened here, though. Is instead of giving the 70% that normally a Spotify will take, Apple agreed to more. Some people say it's 71.5. I guess in Europe it's 73.
Ooh,
and
so
my guess is that Apple agreed to that in exchange for the 3-month free exclusive. They said, well, that'll balance it out. We'll give you a larger amount over time if we can juice up the stats at the beginning with 3 months free. And the labels agreed to that. So this isn't really about Apple versus the artist. This was about the labels once again selling out their artists' interests.
As it always has
because
been.
they know they'll get their money down the line, even if it hurts some individual artists along the way.
But I wonder, I wonder if like that, because artists are rarely at the table. They're represented by publishers, who have the rights to these songs, and by the music labels who have other rights. So maybe it's just a case of the label's not fighting hard enough. Maybe they're just totally whipped by Apple and they know they're going to lose at any rate. Because how do you tell? It's just a very awkward conversation, I feel like, to be like, yeah, we're going to ask your artist to pay for this. And you're saying that from like a throne that you're sitting in, which is made of solid gold.
She says at the end of her letter, we don't ask you for free iPhones. Please don't ask us to provide you with our music for no compensation.
Well, we do with 2-year contracts.
I think, though, all right, look, obviously, on the face of it, she's right. But for years now, artists have accepted that you're not going to make much money on radio play. In fact, as a performer, you make zero. Only the publisher, the songwriter, gets any money. You're not going to make a lot of money even with the other streaming music services like Pandora, Spotify. But if you're a new artist, that's how your music gets out. She herself says, I make my money touring. Isn't that really just the fact of life these days?
Josh Constein over at TechCrunch had a great point, which was the company that gets this will start selling merch and concert tickets through their streaming service.
Exactly.
Cutting in the artists where they make their actual money, and no one will care so much about all these individual streams, which are minuscule.
And that's already, I mean, that's been happening since Yahoo Music service built on Rhapsody forever ago. And Spotify has you can follow an artist and get notifications. I assume there's like an affiliate link deal if you buy a ticket based on that click, because they're the ones who are responsible for you discovering that.
This is nothing new either. Apple's given away free songs every week for a long time, and they don't pay the artists for those, as far as I know. That's when you get chosen to give away a free song. Congratulations. Same thing with Amazon with their free app every day, right? They do a free app. You don't get many money.
They should just force downloads of artists' entire albums onto your Apple
idea.
They call it the U2 strategy.
And charge you on top of it.
For everybody. Yeah.
They actually, didn't they pay you more than $100 million for the right to put Songs of Innocence on my phone? I think they did. They paid a lot of money.
Yeah, and that's why
that deal.
That's why I'm convinced that Apple has the money to give the labels this. It was the labels saying, okay, we'll give you 3 months free.
That's what I think.
If you pay us more over time going forward, and Apple agreed to it. No one was considering individual artists at that point.
That's right. Taylor wasn't asked. Her label did this.
And Taylor's got her own label, so she can just pull out and go, no, this actually doesn't.
Oh, is that it? She's not on a label.
Well, she's on a label, but it's a label that is independent of these other agreements, as I understand.
So maybe she's just pissed off Apple didn't talk to her.
I doubt that very much. I'm sure Apple wanted to talk to Taylor Swift.
Oh, no, because they have her back catalog in here, just not the current album.
Yeah.
She's saying, I wish you would give us better royalties.
Right. And she's saying reconsider. It's not too late. She says it's not too late. Reconsider.
She's got a blank space. She'll write their name.
I got word from Mr. Nick Bilton. I wanted to make sure it was okay to share this. He is a new father.
I know. Congratulations, Nick.
Happy Father's Day, Nick Bilton.
Yeah. He was amazing. He found a wife and a child like within a space of a month or two. It's really...
he found the wife a bit earlier than that.
Okay, all right. I've been watching his adorable
Uber
baby
for
pictures.
Family,
yeah.
Insta-fam.
Thanks for checking, because you know what? I would have just said it without asking him ahead of time, so I appreciate your saying.
I've been burned by sharing other people's details without checking first, and as my own reach gets larger, that's more painful to people who didn't ask for it, and so I'm hypersensitive.
You forget that when you see something like on Facebook that maybe it's not public. I always assume it's public. So anyway, yes, congratulations. And do you remember the name of his baby?
I do, though I don't know if that's public, so I'm not.
Okay. Okay. Aren't we careful here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we can safely say we're all sympathetic with Taylor's point of view, and absolutely, if you're a new artist and you're losing 3 months of sales, that could be a significant ding. But I think you're also right, Tom. This was a deal the labels made. Apple didn't do this unilaterally.
Yeah, and it becomes a bad deal for all the indie labels and all the individual artists who weren't at that table.
Yeah.
Yeah, like these British labels are complaining about the same thing that Taylor Swift is complaining about on behalf of.
And Apple Music's not going to have a full catalog because of that.
Oh, really? Yeah. Are labels saying, well, they're not going to have 1989, but you mean it's beyond that?
Yeah. They're some of the smaller indie labels are not going to be in the service either.
Interesting. Isn't it the case, though, really, that I read this somewhere, I would like to give credit, but I don't remember, that, in fact, it's all a matter of time before the labels put all of these services out of business. Spotify has never made any money. And even though they're getting funding like crazy, it's really up to the labels. And the labels don't want this. Or do they?
They don't want it too fast. They don't want it to undermine the current business model before they've figured out how to move all that money.
But that's why Apple's doing this, right? Because they saw a 14% decline in sales last year.
Right.
Oh, wow.
And
I don't know the last time I rarely buy.
Right. You don't need to. You listen to Spotify, you got every song.
Yeah, it's all in the cloud. It's a streaming life, man. It's a streaming life.
1989.
Like my apartment, right?
I actually bought the Beatles. I bought for the 18th time another collection.
They're the best.
Well, they deserve the money. They need it. Those poor guys, young struggling. I got there's a little metal green apple with a USB key in it, and it's got FLAC versions of the 2009 remastered 24-bit. So but then you have to re-encode that for streaming.
Right. So you obviously use like a real networks, like 14 kilobit.
Real player. There it is. That's the little thing. And it's actually pretty good. But then, because they're not on any streaming service, right? So I had to upload it to Amazon so I could hear it on my Echo, and upload it to Google so I could listen to it. Because otherwise you can't stream the Beatles unless you own the Beatles. But they're the only artists.
I use Google Music All Access, which lets me stream the Beatles music I own.
But you have to own it, exactly.
But I have to own it, yeah.
And does someone from Google come to your house to inspect your record collection?
Yeah, my wife, she works there.
Cool. So she authenticates.
Literally, somebody from Google inspects his collection regularly.
Make sure you didn't just borrow those discs from a friend.
What's interesting is Google's I use Google All Access. I like it, but you know, it's tied to your Google account, so only you can use it. There are limits, kind of draconian limits, which I wasn't really aware of, to how many times you can re-download your own music. I think you only can do it a couple of times a year.
Okay.
There's all sorts of issues with Google Music, and I love the idea because my collection is in Google Music with 30 million other songs. So, as you say, Tom, I can supplement the Beatles and so forth. Double Twist actually has just launched a solution to get around this.
I love this.
Called Cloud Player. I tried to download it this morning. I couldn't get it. But the idea is, if your music is on Dropbox, you can stream it to Double Twist on Android. And I guess does it also use Google Drive? Yeah, it's Dropbox, OneDrive, or Google Drive. And so it literally bypasses all of Google's restrictions about how many times you can download your music, who owns it. You can only authorize 5 devices with Google. All of that's bypassed by Double Twist.
Good.
You've got to wonder what Google's going to do in response.
Block them from Google's search results, which is a nice segue, am I right?
Into, gosh, Baratunde, you're doing my job.
Trying to keep it moving, Leo.
Keep it moving. Go ahead. I don't know where you're going with this, though.
I was going with the revenge porn being stricken from Google search results.
But you have to ask for it.
Yeah, you have to request it. It's just like the right to be forgotten implementation over in Europe.
They do that with, I didn't know this, but according to USA Today, they've always done that with bank account and Social Security. So if your search is turning up your social, you can ask them to take it down. I
didn't know that either. I was curious why that wasn't a bigger deal, like finding someone's signature and their social.
Right.
You could open up everything in their name, and I'm sure people have scanned it and ended up online in forums by accident. So they're automatically
removing pornography has had that policy as well.
Yeah, that would make sense. But this is if your ex is putting up nude pictures of you and as revenge, you can fill out a form which is not yet available but will be soon, saying, "Hey, I did not give permission for this imagery to be on the internet. Would you please take down the search results?" And I think that's a good thing.
Agreed.
If it's not on Google, it doesn't exist.
And I like the idea that you have. It seems like for such a long time there was a very hands-off, like outside of the realm of morality and ethics attitude about the power of this technology to do great harm.
Right.
And it's like, oh, we're just an algorithm, right? Just doing what the machines tell us to do. Like that's how you end up with some pretty bad outcomes from time to time. So for Google to be saying like, look, this information, it's our job. I'm paraphrasing. Like their mission is to organize the world's information, but it's really to organize the world's valuable information. And this information has no value. It only has harm attached to it. So it's not a good look for them to be connected to a place where you can go to find ways to hurt people and destroy their reputation.
But don't you think it opens up the door to the right to be forgotten in a broader way? Like, okay, well, that's harmful, but what about that article about me that said I bribed a judge 20 years ago? Shouldn't I be able to take that down too? Not that I did. I'm not saying me.
Well, I think that puts the argument where it's supposed to be, which is saying what is the line between what should be allowed and what shouldn't be allowed. I mean, just like freedom of expression says you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, there is a line.
There is a line.
Where you say you can't say everything.
Right.
We try to make it as abundant as possible. And I think Google is saying revenge porn is on that side of the line. There is no value to it.
No one would question that.
Right to be forgotten.
Right.
Sometimes there is still value to that because it's actual facts. It's not necessarily libelous or slanderous. It's just old. And I think I'm sympathetic to the argument where they're saying, I think you should have a higher burden of proof that something like that should be removed from search results.
What Tom said, everything, cosign.
Apparently, Jackie Spear from California is about to introduce federal legislation that would make it illegal. It's not illegal, revenge porn. And John Oliver is going to, now this is really going to carry a lot of weight. John Oliver will do it on Sunday and last week tonight. Hey, look who woke up. Mr. Ben Thompson from Stratechery joins us. Hi, Ben.
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Were you asleep?
I had a time zone malfunction.
No problem. We're always grateful that you tune in at 6 in the morning anyway. So
yeah, well, someone's gonna make a bad. Someone probably should make like an Apple Watch look or something. But yeah, there's no daylight savings time here. So, which I think I've remarked previously. I got it right the last time I was on, but I went to bed, set my alarm for 6:45, and woke up at 6:45 to 57 Skype messages asking where I was.
Oh, so, I'm so sorry.
No, I'm the one. It's my fault.
I'm
so
so
apologize.
Sorry. Well, no, we're thrilled to have you.
Yeah, well, I would just, I mean, I would love to jump in on the conversation. I think the one point I would make is, I think in tech and around some of these issues in particular, the kind of slippery slope argument gets a little oversold. And I say this as someone who takes it very, very seriously. I mean, actually, my background in university is not tech; it was political science and actually constitutional law specifically. So the concept of slippery slope and the First Amendment and all those sorts of things is something that I certainly understand very well and rings very true. That said, I feel like the argument of this is a step down a slippery slope is taken so far to the extreme. The reality is everything is on the slope.
Yeah, that's
true. And it's kind of insulting to suggest that that no one has the judgment to figure out where and when we can go. I mean, so you literally get arguments of people arguing that private corporations should not put some sort of limit on truly egregious, awful behavior or speech in the name of a slippery slope argument that, one, is nonsensical if you actually back up and think about it, two, is kind of insulting, and three, private corporations aren't covered by the First Amendment anyway. So, I mean, good on Google for doing this, and good on the taking it a little easy on the slippery slope argument.
I'm not making the slippery slope argument really.
That's fine. It's kind of a hobby horse for me. So I was glad to jump on it.
But I'm going to jump on it. I will kind of take the point of view just to give you more to push against. You can certainly make the case that if there's editorial discretion of any kind, if it's not completely algorithmic, then that changes the whole complexion of the matter. Then where does that end? Where does editorial discretion end? Shouldn't it be entirely algorithmic and there should be no human intervention at all? If in all,
I don't know that. I don't know why that.
In other words, address revenge porn at the source. Why does Google have to change its algorithm? Take down certainly go to the sites where it's up there, and as they did recently, throw them in jail.
Because Google's a point of leverage and can actually make a difference. I mean, if we didn't act except at the root source of every problem, we wouldn't do anything, right? We wouldn't have energy if we felt that way. We don't fly to the sun to get it. Like, we have to have intermediate methods of getting things done, and Google represents a major gateway, and they've made a call that says, look, we're not the cause of the problem, but we contribute by creating a market for this. Search is a market. People look up folks' information, and if this is what they find on someone, which is only an act of malice, not the fact-based journalistic stuff that Tom was talking about earlier, then it has no value. And for Google to be like, oh, we didn't start the fire, does that mean you don't help put it out?
Yeah, and I think there's also an argument to be made. And hi, Ben, I'm Tom. Nice to meet you.
Oh, hey, Tom.
Tom Merritt, Ben Thompson.
I think there's an argument to be made too that this is Google admitting that their algorithm isn't perfect, and that if their algorithm was perfect, it would be able to tell that this was valueless content and kick it out, but it can't. And so you have to put a patch on it, a human patch for the time being.
Well, and that idea that too is the idea that the best world is one where that doesn't require human intervention. No, that's the Skynet world. We've seen that documentary so many times before. And I don't know that that's the highest level of like creative achievement, is one where no people are required. Like, that shouldn't be the goal.
You guys are pushing me. You're pushing me in the opposite direction now. The more I hear this, the more I don't like this idea. I feel like if you're going to say, I'm going to make a search engine, what you should do is make a search engine that indexes what's on the net, regardless of content, because that's what's on the net. Your job is to reflect what's on the net and give the best results, not to editorialize. And then if you don't like something that's on the net, you should go to where it is on the net, not take the search engine to task.
So there's two issues, Leo, and for the record, I'm very sympathetic. I mean, I had a similar position recently, and So I get it. I think there's.
I would look. There's plenty of stuff I would love to take down on the net. Everybody knows that. So I'm arguing against my own interest, but I think it's in all of our interest that Google be an independent aggregator of whatever, a reflection of what's on the net, and not with any human editorial intervention, because editorial intervention always introduces bias.
So the problem, though,
so does algorithmic intervention. Bias is. Sorry, Ben. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, actually, Ben, you go, and then I think that's an interesting point, Baratunde. You get the next one. Go ahead, Ben.
No, I think maybe we're going to simplify it. I mean, who writes the algorithms?
Exactly. Other algorithms.
Guy named Al.
The truth is, one, humans write algorithms. And so there is going to be some level of bias already in them. Two, Google has already made this decision to censor some sort of content. They have a long-standing, as noted, policy to not show child pornography, for example. They also don't show certain piracy results. Some of them because they have to, some of them because they choose not to. There's a whole list of stuff. They choose not to feature sites that link to themselves and have all that sort of stuff, and the various, Penguin updates and Panda and Peregrine and whatever the names are. The reality is that the search algorithm itself is a very human endeavor, and we can't pretend that it is inherently objective when it's not. More broadly, we need to deal with the world as it is, not with a theoretical world where there's an impartial computer answering our questions. The reality is that in a world of infinite information, the point that organizes that information, for better or worse, has unbelievable power and leverage. And frankly, in Google's interest, if they don't take the responsibility, they shouldn't be surprised if governments take the responsibility for them. So this is actually probably a self-interested move on Google's part.
I agree with that. But that's kind of a politically realistic point of view. I disagree. I think an algorithm can be completely objective. In fact, PageRank at its fundamental root it takes no account of the content at all.
No, but
it merely says if people are linking to this page, it's highly ranked. The higher the rank of the pages that are linking to the page, the higher the rank of the page. If you just do that, that's purely algorithmic without human intervention, and it is completely objective, and there's no editorializing.
So the editorial happened when someone decided that page rank equaled important. Like the word rank is a human value that says a page is important because of this algorithmic definition of inbound, outbound links, etc. So the pure doesn't belong in this discussion. There's no idea of purity here because someone created that. It's like saying a test, an academic test measures intelligence. It measures a certain type of intelligence. PageRank measures a certain type of importance, but it could be argued that there are other relevant factors for the position of a web page and the result for a certain term that PageRank doesn't capture at all. So PageRank is very limited human value imposed from the source, like the code itself has values imposed by a thinking.
Well, it may not be perfect, but it's better than having a human decide.
But Leo, if you're going to say it's not perfect, but it's better than having a human decide.
Yeah.
What I would say is it's better to have a human decide to not include revenge porn than to not. I mean, the point of the fact of the matter is, once you've established it's not perfect, then you're making judgment calls. And once you're making judgment calls,
that's why I say you lead. I agree with you.
Morality.
Revenge porn is obviously wrong. But the point is, as soon as this is the slippery slope argument you hate so much, but as soon as you say abandon the completely computer-based algorithm and start saying, well, except this isn't so good and this isn't so good, that's very risky because that's a judgment call.
But the problem is that argument only holds moral water if you start with the assumption that the original judgment is perfect.
Yeah,
it is perfect if it merely reflects
it's perfect according to certain parameters.
I mean, perfect, right? There's no achieving that is impossible.
I think PageRank is pretty amazing.
So that's
you're not going to get any.
I understand Google's abandoning.
I'm not telling you what you think, but I can't imagine a world where you think that they happen to stumble into the absolute, across all time, best and most perfect way to determine the page results.
Maybe there's a better way to do it, but I would say,
so then it can't be perfect. If there's something better, then this is not perfect.
But I would say what's absolutely imperfect is imposing some sort of moral judgment or moral compass, because that changes. That is highly subjective. Whereas you can pick let's just pick an algorithm. It doesn't matter if it's PageRank, but there is some method that I'm using that is, the point of PageRank is to try to determine which pages are the most important, which pages are the least important, and then give it in order according to your search term. So let's we want to perfect that. We want to make that better and better. But the minute you say, except, let's take these results out and let's take these results out, now your search algorithm isn't showing an accurate picture of the web. Well, if the web is full of crap, which it is, by the way, who's going to decide what to take out?
Well, the accept started the moment that they pulled out link farms. They said, that's not a valuable result, and PageRank was making a mistake by ranking those, so we have to tweak. Then they pulled out bank account numbers and child pornography and now revenge porn. So really, the conversation to me isn't about whether there should be human intervention in the algorithm, because there has been all the way back to the beginning. The question is, are they intervening in the right places? So,
exactly.
Leo, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, are you making a moral judgment? And is revenge porn or child pornography a moral judgment, or just a class that they say, you know what, if we had the perfect algorithm, it would eliminate that on its own?
Yeah, I mean, of course, look, algorithms it's made of people like everything else. But there is the goal that you're trying to achieve with the algorithm. And one would be to try to accurately reflect, however we do it, the actual state of the net. That, to me, seems the right and good way to create a search engine. The other would be to say, let's show the results on the net of stuff we don't disagree with. Whatever that is that you don't disagree with. The fact that we can all agree that revenge porn is bad does not mean that it should be abandoned, because that is, just because we all agree about it, we might all agree that African-American people are all bad. And that has happened in time. Should the algorithm be adjusted? No, it should not be based on that kind of judgment. What you're trying to do is mathematically, accurately reflect that data pool that is the net. However creepy it is, let's have an accurate search result. That's all I'm saying.
We haven't had that for years.
Yeah,
then let's aim at that, right?
But there's a world where there was a great TED talk that came out this year about our whole perception of anything is imperfect. It's incomplete. We don't see like infrared without some extra tools. Like we don't. The idea that we could accurately reflect the net, like the word accurate and the word net, are both very subjective and hard to wrap some comprehensive case around. And I think, a pure, quote unquote, pure search engine can exist, but to Tom's point, it would actually be a pile of crap.
Yes, because that's what's on the net. But then we should fix what's on the net, not what's the search algorithm.
No, but Leo, it's not just because that's what's on the net. It's because people would intervene to manipulate and get, like, the top result would be coupons and porn sites and discount codes.
Well, then let's fix the net.
But you, okay, yeah, I would vote that we move on the subject.
Okay.
I
think we've all made our points. Exactly right.
Yeah,
exactly right.
Because you can find it all in Bing.
You pushed me into it. I wasn't going to push so hard. It is all in Bing, right?
Well, but you did. You pushed. It was good, because I think you pushed hard enough that you ended up in an absurd place, and I think we all know that.
I disagree entirry.
Which is what that is, actually.
I think what you really.
You, Leo, accurately reflected the internet right now.
All right, let's take a break. There's lots more to talk about, including an article on the Wall Street Journal that said Apple should abandon the Mac. I'd like to know if you agree, especially you, Ben.
See that article.
Our show today brought to you by Gazelle. A great way if you are in. Is this Gazelle time? I think it is, isn't it? Yeah. A great way if you are into gadgets to get new gadgets without breaking the bank. You see, when you're done with a phone or a tablet or a computer or a screen, do you just kind of throw it in a pile somewhere, maybe stick it in a drawer? That'd be like taking $100 bills and saying, I don't need this anymore, and just putting it in the drawer. Instead, go to Gazelle.com. At least do yourself a favor. Get a quote for, well, how much is that old iPhone 5 worth? And then when you see it's worth $100, maybe you won't throw it in the door. Maybe you'll send it to Gazelle. The point is you can get that quote. No, no obligation, no cost to you. $175. Okay, and now we're talking. It's good for 30 days, so you don't have to decide right away. In fact, if there's a new thing coming and you want to get it, it's a great idea to go to Gazelle now and get that quote so you can lock it in. Then when you get the new thing, transfer the data off the old thing and send it to Gazelle. They pay the postage on anything worth more than $1. You might ask, I know many have, well, what happens to the goods, the stuff that Gazelle gets? Well, the stuff that's in the best shape, they actually will turn around and sell. Pre-owned, certified from Gazelle. Devices are available from Gazelle in 2 conditions. Certified like new. Nothing more to say about that. They're as good as new. Certified good. They show some gentle signs of wear, but you're going to get even more savings. The thing to know is everything's been put through Gazelle's rigorous 30-point inspection, so they're fully functional, and you have a 30-day risk-free return. So it's great. It's if you lose your phone, this is the place to go. If your kids break their phone or their tablet, this is the place to go. Gazelle, you get paid in cash. Payment is fast. It's risk-free. They'll wipe your data if you forget. Gazelle's paid out over $200 million now to over 1 million customers. Very happy. Me, I'm one of them. I love Gazelle, and now you can buy from Gazelle, too. To buy or sell, remember Gazelle, Gazelle. Gazelle.com. We thank them for their support. I don't know what sick game Christopher Mims is up to in the Wall Street Journal. What sick game? Why Apple should kill off the Mac? Actually, I guess from a purely business point of view, it might make sense to. I mean, the Mac is such a small part of their business. They make so much money on the iPhone. It might make sense to kill off the computer that really put Apple on the map after the Apple II.
Unless they put it on the Apple Maps, in which case it might be hard to find.
Is this guy nuts? Ben, you do a lot of this kind of analysis. Is anybody really? I hope nobody's taking this seriously.
I resent that comment that I do a lot of this kind of analysis.
No, but I mean you do not this kind. But you look at numbers, you understand business, what the business is, and you've said some interesting, maybe even provocative things. Google, for instance, no longer top of their game. Do you think this is a reasonable strategy for Apple?
Well, for the record, I think the issue with Google is the advertising market shifting to, or the addition of branded advertising. They're not strong. But that aside, no, it's a ridiculous, ridiculous article. As far as I can ascertain, Mim's argument is that Apple needs more focus. But it's just it's just a really poorly thought out idea. I mean, for lots of reasons. I mean, the most obvious one is well, from a business perspective, it's still a very successful, large, and profitable business. I mean, anything compared to the iPhone is small. The Mac compared to any other PC manufacturer is very, very strong and very, very good.
Oh, it is.
And very, very profitable relative to anyone else. Two, it kind of raised the question like, well, how are you going to make apps for the iPhone and for the iPad? And Mim's answer in a follow-up column is like, well, you'll have a really decked out iPad. And then I'm like, well, why don't you just change the name then and call it a Mac?
It'll be called a Mac, yeah.
Yeah. And then the third point, though, is a big reason why iOS was able to start afresh, why I was able to have a simpler approach, is because it didn't need to do everything, because there was already something that did everything, and that was the Mac. The iPad and the iPhone, particularly at the beginning, before we knew what these categories were, makes sense in a world where there already is a fully capable, fully thought out tool on one side, and we can distill the essence into a new product on the other. And that need hasn't gone away. I mean, we're all sitting on Macs right now, because to record a podcast on an iPad, well, theoretically possible, it doesn't make sense. I'm not sure. You probably couldn't do a multi-headed recording. Maybe you could. But the reality is, it'd be.
Let me mention that this is being recorded on a Windows 7 machine. It will be edited on Windows 8 machines. But continue.
Fair enough. No, fair enough. But I mean, Well, so then the question is, okay, so should Apple use Windows?
Yes. Why? No. It's a waste of energy to have both Mac and Windows. Let's just pick one.
Well, I mean, that's fine. You can argue that.
I'm just being stupid now. I'm just being
I would say that's a slippery slope to a bad idea. But,
see, some slopes are slippery.
We should standardize on Arch.
Hey, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know how much there's to say about this.
No, it's just goofy. Okay, I want to make sure
there's a point. If I could try to make an attempt to draw a point out of here, I think his major, and honestly, I think he's trying to write an article that people will click and read.
It's clickbait.
But his major premise here is that the PC market is dying, and I think it's taken. I think he exaggerates that too much. If Apple should focus, they should get rid of the iPod, which is definitely a dying market.
Okay, there's a good
before
point.
They get rid of PCs.
Yeah, you're right. Kill the iPod.
But do you think Apple has lost focus? I mean, you could argue that the Apple Watch should be got rid of. Well,
I mean, I think in a way the underlying truth of what he's saying is that Apple's no longer a technology company; they're a fashion company, and that the technology is secondary.
I didn't get that from it. What I got was the loss of focus argument, and I read it during the Gazelle ad. Sorry, Gazelle. I was Googling
That's
real
what we
fast,
do the ads
and
to give
Google
you a chance
to relevant search result, despite being imperfect. The idea that the loss of focus and the fact that they're trying to do TVs, watches, pads, and phones, and this desktop device, that the representation of their revenue is like 9%, which he argues they don't need, and they could kind of redirect all the labor going into that 9% to some of these other areas they want to master. I would just be happy if they didn't change all of our connecting ports all the damn time,
right?
For no particular reason, and make obsolete all of my accessories. That'd be really nice, if they would do that. I don't want them to shut down a whole business unit. Just have a bit more mercy when you're jumping from USB whatever to the new thing. That makes me feel like an idiot.
Tom, do you do the movie draft still?
Yeah.
Who do you have in the summer movie draft? Did you have Jurassic?
No, that was Malongo and Christy Cates had Jurassic World, and Team DTNS was favored to win because we did a buy late strategy where we bought like 7 movies, and we thought we'd just win in bulk, and then Jurassic World came along and screwed everything up.
$500 million.
I got a movie for you.
What?
Speaking of slippery slope, that phrase comes up in a new movie called Dope, D-O-P-E.
Yeah.
It is. It hasn't been marketed like this, I don't think, but I think it's a movie that this audience, the Twit audience especially, would love. It is a very geeky, techie movie under the guise of these high schoolers who are obsessed with 1990s hip hop, who find themselves in some tricky situations that they have to get themselves out of. It's very funny. It's very sharp satire. But it's one of the best uses of tech in a very pop culture movie. It's not like a deep dive into any aspect of tech. It's not about technology, but it integrates it so naturally, and it's about how young people are using it. That when I saw it, I was like, "Yo, Twit would love this. I have to mention it." So I have no relationship to the movie except that I saw it and love it. You should
90% on the Rotten Tomato.
It's killing. It deserves all the percents that it's got.
Yeah.
That should be their motto: all the percents.
Present day in L.A. The problem is they're billing it as a teen movie, like a high school movie. But you think it's better than that?
It's about teenagers, but it scales much, much farther. I mean, it's a music movie because the soundtrack is just killer. It is a coming of age. This is about a kid trying to get into college, and some obstacles that present themselves. It's about geeks versus popular kids, which I don't know. I just suspect we in the Twit community might feel some affinity toward. I'm just hazarding a crazy guess. So I wouldn't say but it's not a kid's movie by any stretch. I mean, it's a movie for grown people.
I'll have to see it. I don't even know about it.
Yeah, now you do. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
Sarah told me about Straight Outta Compton, too. Like, I'm going to get really hip and with it and down with the kids in the hood.
As long as you don't say that again, you stand a chance.
You're on fleek, Leo.
What? I don't understand. But the other movie is coming out this weekend, the Pixar movie, Inside Out. I hear that's pretty good, too. Do you have that, Tom?
I don't, but I watched it.
And
it's not up tearjerker level, but
I loved Up.
It's near that, and sort of like it's more positive because it's about a child growing up, so nobody dies. Spoiler alert.
I don't know how we got into movies. Oh, because I was wondering if you still did the movie draft. I always enjoyed that. Do you do that with Scott?
Yeah, Scott, Brian, Justin, Brian Ibbett, guy from Queens, Andrew Zarian. They're all in it.
Wow. That's a cast of thousands. And where would we
Inside Out is Brian and Justin's movie.
Where would we Inside Out? Oh. Where would we catch the summer movie draft updates?
You can find the statistics at draft.diamondclub.tv.
There you go. Who's playing
music?
You
to talk about Jurassic
Is that you,
World, or?
Baratunde? Are you watching the Dope trailer in the background there?
Sorry, I didn't know that audio was going to come out through the monitor.
Am I boring you?
No, I was just trying to share the URL with the chat.
Oh, thank you. Let's see what else here. You might know a little bit this, Tom, and I don't know if you want to recuse yourself because, of course, Eileen, your wife, works at the YouTube space in Los Angeles. YouTube is building a Twitch killer, we hear, the YouTube gaming service. They tried to buy Twitch, lost out to Amazon, which paid a lot for the service. YouTube's Twitch killer. In fact, here's some pictures of it from Ron Amadio at Ars Technica. So is this Let's Play videos? It seems like that's what this is.
Yeah, it's interesting. My wife doesn't work on this particular project. Lamar Wilson was at the launch event. We had him on Daily Tech News Show to talk about it. Basically, YouTube is trying to leverage their advantage of having lots of gameplay footage archived, right?
Right. That's where it started, right?
Archive.
Yeah.
And they have live streaming for YouTube that is powered through Hangouts, but you can also go directly. You don't have to use Hangouts to stream. And so they're creating an app. It's in beta now. You have to be invited in, but it's going to launch later this summer that will allow you to not only live stream your games, but automatically archive them. And then the app, as a viewer, will let you just drill down by the player. That you want to see all of Trump's videos. If he's on there, you can find them. You can go by game if you want to see all the Hearthstone videos, or by publisher if you're into the publisher. So they get some branded money that way too.
Donald Trump has Let's Play videos?
A different Trump, not the one running for president.
Yeah, I've never actually done a full session on Twitch. I did visit a friend in Chicago, and his young kid showed me Minecraft up close and personal for the first time.
That's cool.
Very exciting.
That's cool.
I felt hip and cool and what the kids are into. Very, very much on fleek like Leo Laporte. But I did like this article is worth reading. One, it looked like the best looking interface maybe that Google's ever made. It is so
it's
not
seriously better than the YouTube interface.
Yeah. YouTube is pretty garbage actually. Yeah. And I have lots of love for YouTube. I don't feel like I have to do a Taylor Swift apology, but this looks so much better than anything YouTube has ever done. And I was into it for that reason. And then the thing you talk about, Tom, the way they mined their archives to just populate the system.
That's smart.
Was something only Google could do.
Right.
Because they've been indexing information for so long. And that was just I don't even know if they thought that when they started, when they acquired YouTube in the beginning, like 8 years from now, however many years it's been, we'll be able to launch a service based on what people have already shared with us and recontextualize it. That's pretty intelligent.
It reminds me a little, though, of Apple Music trying to take it away from Spotify. You have an incumbent that is very strong.
Well, it's actually worse than Spotify. I mean, at the end of the day, Spotify
financially.
Yeah, well, Spotify doesn't have that many users in the grand scheme of things. 70
Which
million
has
or
more?
Like
I mean,
that.
Spotify's got what they said, 75 million.
But I think it's just 20 that are paying.
But
25
but the issue with Spotify, though, is in any sort of content, you have two sides. You have the content production, you have the content consumption.
Right.
Apple will have the same production side as Spotify. I think I missed the Apple Music discussion. Sorry. But the whole point why Apple's hands are relatively tight here is because music is utterly and completely controlled by the labels.
Right.
The positive side of that is that Apple immediately has the same library that Spotify does.
Right.
So the production side is the same, and then they can do battle for the consumption side. And again, Apple has big advantages here. They have a built-in, their default, but Spotify's big advantages too. They have a free layer that Apple doesn't. And actually, the real kind of important player in the room is YouTube, which is where, speaking of all the kids, that's where they're getting their music.
Both my 20 and 23-year-old, that's all they do is watch YouTube.
Unless they're on my Snapchat channel, of course.
Yeah, that Snapatunde and YouTube. That's all they do.
So the issue with YouTube gaming and Twitch is that Twitch has a two-sided network going on. They have the people who are doing the playing and the people who are doing the watching. And it's much harder to break into a two-sided network because you need to get both sides to switch at the same time. And a nice interface will help, but it's only going to get you so far. So that's why there's been talk about them paying some players, doing some various stuff to get people to switch over, which they will need to do. Frankly, the big screw up was not buying Twitch. It wasn't that expensive. It was like $900 million or $940 million or something. Yeah. And frankly, this gets to a bigger problem with Google, which is they probably have the worst case of not invented here syndrome of anyone in the Valley. And they bought YouTube, and look how well that turned out for them. But for some reason, the lesson they took away is we shouldn't do big acquisitions. We should just copy the leader and try to build it ourselves, which hasn't succeeded at all. They should have bought Twitch.
The social networks are tearing up the charts. What are you talking about, Ben?
They should have bought Twitter. Like
they should still
5-6 years ago.
They should still buy Twitter. I think why not now?
Well, because when and if they do, they're paying 10x what they would have had to pay a few years ago.
Well, they should have bought it when it's cheaper, but they can afford Twitter
for
today.
A product that frankly hasn't evolved since they considered buying it the first time. So I'm not sure what they're paying for. But this is a consistent problem for Google, and something that Facebook, to its credit, has learned about and done differently is that appreciating actually for a big company, once you have your big product, your big breakthrough product, the best way to get your next breakthrough product is to use the profits from the first one to buy it. This whole bias towards we have to invent it and NIH not invented here syndrome is debilitating, and it's a problem for Google, and you're seeing it play out right here.
Excellent point. So really what we're saying is Google gaming is compared to Twitch as maybe Yahoo video would be compared to YouTube. It's like it's too late. All the creators are at Twitch.
Well, or the better example is Google Video compared to YouTube.
Yeah, and there was a non-starter, wasn't it?
Well, and Google, to their credit, figured out that was exactly, and so they went and bought YouTube
and killed Google Video.
Yeah,
The question is whether live streaming esports is solidified at Twitch. If it is, then Ben's absolutely right. And what YouTube is gambling on is we are the hard drive that Twitch streamers store to. We have PewDiePie and a few other people. If we can pay the publishers and the esports organizations and wrench them away, maybe we have a shot. It is still a tall ask, though. Ben's absolutely right.
Right. I mean, they may succeed. You're right. The point is, though, I don't think that changes the fact they were wrong to not pay $1.2 billion for Twitch or however much it would have taken.
100%. What is Amazon going to do with Twitch? Is that a sensible acquisition for Amazon?
I mean, from what I know and from what I've heard, it was let's say Amazon has a and apparently a lot of this is Amazon made this way. Is let's say Amazon has a grand strategic plan and like they're like, hey, potential next ESPN $900 billion, sure, we'll buy.
We'll take it.
And so I think as I understand it, that was the primary driver. That said, now they're, to Tom's point, certainly if Twitch needs help building up their infrastructure and their hard drive capability, you could hardly ask for a better partner. So,
yeah, I'm surprised we haven't seen more along that lines already, but I'm sure we will.
And do you think this whole concept of watching people play video games, which I just don't do, I got
you're too old.
Time allocated to other
you're too old, man.
But it doesn't seem like it's a mature market at all, just based on how young the whole idea of it is. So,
but doesn't everybody want millennials? Isn't that where all the millennials are?
I'm not saying yes or no to that, but I just think the idea that Twitch somehow has locked it up just doesn't seem sound to me, given how young the whole industry.
Again, I'm not saying that at all.
Twitch is MySpace or Facebook? Where in that timeline?
Yeah, like the challenge that Google will have with luring the game broadcasters over feels real and very different from the one that Apple has of luring musicians over, because to your point, Ben, it's the same players on one side and they're much more portable. But I suspect that the streaming, gaming, esports universe is so young that in 15 years you could be like, what was Twitch?
Yeah, you might be right. Because if I think about
if
I think about all the 12-year-olds I know, every one of them wants to do YouTube Minecraft videos, not Twitch, YouTube Minecraft videos.
And then they might also, I mean, ESPN could come in and buy the whole thing and be like, we have all the sports. They'll change their name to all the sports. And then,
did you guys follow E3 this week? I feel like E3 is not where a lot of news gets made. It's where a lot of game cutscenes for games that will be coming out in 8 months get seen.
It was this year for sure.
Yeah.
We didn't have any big hardware announcements.
No.
In fact, everybody thought we were going to get more hardware announcements around the virtual reality sets. Oculus made their announcement last week. And Project Morpheus, they didn't say a whole lot about in the Sony announcement. The biggest announcement to me is not what everybody else thinks was the biggest announcement, but it was that Sony's PlayStation Vue television service came to LA and San Francisco, so I could finally sign up.
Can you see it? Are you watching it?
Yeah. It's an interesting interface. It misses all the ABC Disney channels, but otherwise it looks like a regular cable service with, lots of cable channels, and it works really well.
In fact, of course, Apple's going to get all the Disney stuff.
Yeah.
But
Sling
it does.
TV has a bunch of the ABC Disney stuff. So if you cobble those two together, problem is Sling TV isn't on Sony PlayStation 4, so you have to have two devices.
So Sony, it's interesting, did kind of beat Apple to the punch with this live streaming thing. Apple didn't release the new Apple TV at WWDC as everybody thought, and come E3 a week later, Sony steals the attention.
Well,
how about Steam VR? I thought a lot of people were very interested in this a combination between HTC's Vive VR headset and Steam. And people I've talked to who've tried all of the different VR headsets are saying this is the one. Any thoughts about that? Tom, have you tried the Steam? I
haven't tried the Vive, but you're right. Everybody I know who's tried it,
they're going crazy.
It's great.
Yeah.
Everybody likes the new Oculus as well. The Vive is going to beat the Oculus to market if they hit their date, and that might give them a little bit of an advantage there.
Yeah.
But they didn't make any big announcements. The biggest announcement around the Steam VR was that Microsoft said they would support it, but of course Valve didn't really say much about it, and it ended up being more about, well, it'll work on Windows machines is what it sounds like.
Microsoft showed once again, and they've done it now 3 times, a look at their augmented reality HoloLens glasses. And again, the complaints that it's just a little slot you're looking through. In fact, some people were a little upset at the Microsoft video that they showed at the Xbox One press conference because it implied that you had a much bigger field of view. They showed a guy looking at a table and his Minecraft castle is emerging from the table. They didn't show it the way the guy was seeing it, which is like looking through a cereal box.
Some of the people who played that Minecraft thing said it was still pretty cool, even with the limited field of view.
It seems cool.
It got mixed reviews.
Mixed. All right. Anything else?
The biggest thing to come out of E3 was the Fallout Shelter app for iOS.
That is an awesome app.
It's really good.
Bethesda's not dumb because, of course, they're marketing Fallout 4, which will come out not for a month or so, right? August, I think. Or is it not till next year? I can't see. This is the problem with E3. You look at this stuff and it's like, oh, I got to wait 8 months for this. Fallout 4 and the Pip-Boy edition,
November 10th.
November.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is a little the conversation is a little dismissive for an industry that is, I think, $92 billion, larger than movies and music combined, I believe, or at least it's close to it. And we don't have a problem with movies showing trailers a year in advance.
No,
we all
happens all the time.
Bananas about the Star Wars trailer.
Yep.
So,
okay.
I mean, I guess from my estimation, it seemed to be a pretty positive E3 by and large. And the hardware is what it is. It's going to come out every 5, 6, 7 years. I think what's interesting is that I think people in tech just have never really taken gaming probably as seriously as they should. And everyone, including me at one point, has been like prophesying its doom in the face of phones and all this sort of stuff. And the reality is it provides particularly this high-end sort of gaming that, again, we're all probably too old to figure out the 47 buttons that you need to do it. It provides a very differentiated experience that people are demonstrably willing to pay for, just as people are willing to pay for movies and willing to pay for high-quality TV. And I think once you view it through that lens, the entire conference and industry starts to make a lot more sense.
Yeah, there were some big game announcements. You're absolutely right, Ben. If there was a criticism, it was that we saw a lot of sequels, and especially under Sony, a lot of those big names aren't coming until next year.
Just like the movie industry.
But yeah, it is very similar. I think, though, you should play Fallout Shelter on iOS.
It's awesome.
Because then I think you still might agree that that was the biggest thing to come out of it.
How about Cuphead? Come on, you got to love Cuphead, too. That's
actually, Cuphead looks pretty fantastic.
Cuphead looks awesome. It's like a night. It's like...
I've never played this Fallout Shelter game. Should I? Will I have to have played it on a console for the iOS?
No, it's iPad. No, the whole idea is it's kind
like
of a
sim tower.
It's a sim for your Fallout Shelter, and there's the prequel to Fallout 4 because the whole point of Fallout 4 is you've been in a Fallout shelter for 100 years, and you come out and you emerge into this dystopian world. But at least until that happens in November, we can manage our Fallout shelter. I love the Bethesda's really.
So it's like a disaster prep app. I like that.
Yeah, it's disaster prep. Everything you need to know.
Is there like a hurricane sandbag tossing app as well that we can get out there? Be good.
By the way, I'm told now. I'm sorry, Leo. It's 200 years you're stuck in the Fallout shelter, not 100 years. So get that straight. So there you go. So you playing this like crazy, Tom?
Yeah, I played it all weekend. Ridiculous.
I have to say I've had it on my iPad for a while, and it's really fun. Unfortunately, I have to now log into Game Center to get my game, so I don't remember the code for my Fallout shelter. Yeah. Let's take a break. We're going to talk about the future of Twitter. It's a little bit up in the air. Little teeny weeny bit up in the air. But first, a word from Personal Capital. If you are like a lot of people, you're I hope, putting money aside for your future, for your rainy day fund, for your retirement. But if you're like a lot of geeks, you're probably doing one of two things. Either, and I think most geeks don't do this, but maybe you've like hired an investment advisor, and maybe you weren't really thinking about it, but you know, often cases that guy's really just a salesman. His whole goal is to get you to trade more, to buy stock so he can make more money. Or, see, this is what I did. Oh, no, I'll do it all myself using a online service, and I'll pay close attention, then you forget. And you just pay no attention to your investment, and you don't know what's happening. Personal Capital is designed to really do a better job for you on both counts. For the geek among us, in fact, you go there right now, personalcapital.com/twit. You can sign up absolutely free for their dashboard, which will combine all your accounts together, give you a great idea not only of your net worth, but where your investments are going and where years are being shaved off your retirement by hidden costs, brokerage fees, high-load mutual funds, things like that. It'll also help you keep track of, and this is really important, your asset allocation, so that you make sure that as your portfolio works and you gain, you rebalance it, so you make sure that everything is properly done for your time frame, for your when you retire, your risk tolerance, what your goals are, and all of that. It makes it easy to do that. They have an Apple Watch app that'll give you alerts. They have an Android Wear app, same thing. It's available for desktop, for mobile, for tablet, and this is free. And by the way, very secure. Don't worry. It's absolutely secure to do this. You can open your free account, link your investments in your bank account, and in seconds, you're going to get a complete view of your net worth in real time in one secure place. They call it, I think this is true, it's like a fitness tracker for your finances. Now, let's talk about the financial advisor side of it, because if you do have a salesman as a stockbroker, you're really getting terrible advice. I'm going to be honest. The financial advisors at Personal Capital have a fiduciary responsibility for your best interest. They do not work on commission. They work for you. They are set up carefully to avoid any conflict of interest. So, in fact, you're getting great advice. You can even take advantage of it for free. If you put $100,000 or more into your assets on the Personal Capital dashboard, and that's a lot easier than you think if you've been saving, you will get a free 30-minute review of your financial goals, your risk tolerance, get to know a financial advisor. They'll help you with your time horizon and your retirement planning, and that is absolutely free with no obligation. There's no pressure, nothing like that. And if you decide later, you can invest with Personal Capital, but we don't even have to talk about that. Do the free stuff now. Personalcapital.com, personalcapital.com/twit. You owe it to yourself to do this. It does not take a lot of work. I did it 2 years ago. I couldn't be happier. It really made a big difference for me. And if you would put more than $100,000 of assets on the dashboard, you can get that free, no obligation, no cost portfolio consultation as well. Personalcapital.com/twit. It's been a great way to keep track of what's going on with my money, and I'm very grateful to Bill Harris for telling me all about it. Moving on, Twitter, new CEO. Well, Jack Dorsey's in right now, and his beard, in charge of Twitter at the moment. Dick Costolo will, actually not at the moment. Dick Costolo will be stepping down at the end of the month. He will still be on the board with Jack Dorsey and Evan Williams. Those will be fun meetings.
It's the CEO club.
It's the club. All the guys. And if you've read Nick's book, they don't all get along, do they?
Well, when they're on the board, maybe they do. They equalize it at that point.
Yeah, they have a couple of whiskeys.
Bygones,
they have a vodka drink. They have a whiskey drink. Some of this comes from Chris Sacca, right? And he's an investor in Twitter, and he wrote a kindly but strongly worded memorandum about what should happen. Twitter is responding to market pressures because the market's been slowly beheading people at the C level in the Twitter boardrooms, and finally got to Dick Costolo. Everybody likes. Do you know Dick? You must know him, Baratunde.
I don't know him. I know of him.
Yeah.
And
everybody loves him. He's funny.
I'm excited to have a comedian as the CEO of a major Silicon Valley company.
It's about time.
But I guess no more clowns in charge now. But I think he did good, and I like this tone. I think when he came out publicly and said we're doing a bad job as Twitter at dealing with,
and it's my fault, and it's my fault. I loved it that he said that.
Don't see that. I mean, again, from whether it's business or political leaders, people usually try to dodge. They have scapegoats. They have excuses. They blame the machines, and I just think he owned it, and that was really great. But in his Q&A and the articles that you're starting to talk about, he also, I tend to believe him. Like, he's like, look, I've been here 6 years. We want to keep this thing going. I'm not dead yet. He had a little kind of a Monty Python moment in the interview, saying I'll still be very much involved, still on the board, and let's see what comes next. I like the hints of what's coming next, and I got to share a very strange personal connection to this story. I know I'm not the new CEO.
I know where you're going with this, because and even Jason loved this. Jason Calacanis wrote an article on what he would do.
Yeah.
And for reasons I don't understand, you decided to record it.
So he wrote this essay. Jason said what I would do if I were CEO of Twitter, a 7-part plan.
Yeah.
I got an email. He sends this out in his email newsletter.
Right.
I happened to open it. I rarely open email newsletters, but it was like 1 a.m. I thought, why not? And I shared it. I liked it so much that I shared it out on Twitter. And someone responded to me and Jason saying, basically, it's too long. Jason, you need to make an audiobook version. And so now it's maybe 1:20 a.m. and I decided what better to do with my time than to record aloud this article, offering audio commentary along the way, basically an audio annotated version of me dramatically reenacting this essay on the hypothetical CEO of Twitter. Then that hit another link in the chain. A man named Mark Eglin created an app on Product Hunt to support the idea of getting audio versions of tech essays you want to read. So if you visit Baratunde, but it's .de, so BARATUN.de, you can sign up to kind of be alerted about future readings that I might do of other articles out there, and not just me. This is not just a service.
Can I do one?
Of course you can. I think we can turn this into a thing, though. And I know many people.
Did you do some comedy? I mean, what did you do with this? Did you read it straight? Did you read it in Jason's?
No, like I said, I gave. I didn't do his voice, but I did mock him a bit for some of the commentary that he had in there. He just drops first names of CEOs, like like one club. I don't know who you're talking about, buddy.
Right.
So I would think of them as audio annotations. It was like a MST 3000.
We have are you hearing this? I think I'm playing it a little bit.
Then there's an entry to click to tweet, and he lets you know you can edit the tweet before you send it, which is great because it's not really click to tweet. So
I want this new Baratunde to take off. BARAN.
I like that. That's very good.
BARATUN.de.
Back to that.
So yeah, big love to Mark Eglin.
I love this.
He actually launched all this and without talking to me initially, and then he emailed me. He's like, dude, are we cool? Like, are you okay with this? And I had to kind of think about it, I think, you know, the service's name will likely change, but I'm happy to co-incubate the concept. And I like reading. I have a Frederick Douglass talk. I did my Fast Company article. I'm plugging all of my SoundCloud to help, again, seed the service and see where this goes. I know so many people who Instapaper long reads and never get to them.
Right.
And so it'd be nice to be able to kind of take it. And speech to text, text to speech isn't sexy. Like, I used it a lot because my eyes were all messed up from the surgery. And those voices, even the ones that you download that are like a gig on your phone, they're nothing like what you can get from an impassioned, actual human voice.
But I think there really is something to be said for reading Jason out loud. He
gives you a lot of material.
He gives you a lot of. You know, I would be mad at this guy because you should have registered Baratunde.de.
Oh, well, so there's a history there, and this is why I'm actually very happy with Mark. I used to own that domain name.
Oh.
When Bitly started offering custom short URLs, I created Baratunde.de as my short URL for anything I wanted to. I lapsed and let the domain expire. Some German spam harassing horrible company got it. And I was like, well, I don't care about it. Once you lose something, you justify. You're like, I didn't care about that anyway. And then he basically brought it back into orbit. So it's like in the family again. And again, he's Mark with a C, Eglin. He's been great. And I think people should check it out. I hope he continues to run with it. Even
instead of auto-tune the news, it's Baratunde the news.
Tom Merritt.
Baratunde news.
Baratunde news. That is the jam.
Damn.
I really like that. And
Tom's a wordsmith. Baratunde news.
So anyway, back to Twitter though. I mean, what the substance of what they're starting to talk about with this idea of what are they calling it? Lightning? The idea of packaging up live events. I mean, Twitter is where so many of us go. I mean, the whole idea of tweeting about your sandwich really is not what it's been about for a very long time, though it's still easily mocked for all that. But when the NBA finals are happening, when there's a shooting,
that's when you go to Twitter.
When the World Cup is up or the Super Bowl, you want to go to that water cooler, and they're basically saying that they're going to take an editorial role in packaging up that event from Vine, Periscope, and Twitter, and creating a stream almost like a Snapchat story. This is my first thought when I started reading about it. That will be viable whether you're logged in or not, work in a Twitter app or the website, and can be embedded ultimately in other people's sites. And then they'll let that publishing tool open so that folks can make their own. I love this. It basically takes Storify, turns it up 5,000 notches, and you have a different window into an experience that only a tool like Twitter could be mining. And the way that Google mined its videos on YouTube to create this game streaming service, Twitter's kind of
credit to Matt Honan for the scoop in BuzzFeed of Lightning, which is not out yet, but makes a lot of sense. Anybody who's been following Twitter realizes that's where Twitter's strength is. You think this is the right thing for Twitter to do, Ben?
It's the right thing to do, but it's the wrong timing and the wrong delivery. I agree with the earlier comments that Castell deserves credit for his comments about, you know, how Twitter's handled abuse. I would ask why it took so long.
Right. Whether they've done enough even yet.
Yeah, I mean the current tool is pretty rough that they released, even if they
there's still a lot of abuse on Twitter.
Yeah, well, the big problem for Twitter, though, I mean, not to say that's not a problem, but the big problem for Twitter and for Dick Castell specifically, and I actually wrote, I don't like doing this, but I wrote a piece at the beginning of May saying that Twitter needed to change its leadership, and the reason I said they needed to do that was because Dick Castell had lost credibility, and he'd lost credibility long since with third-party developers. That's well documented.
Well, that's not Dick's fault. They lost them before Dick came along, didn't he?
No, Dick's been in charge since 2010.
So he's the guy who stripped away the third-party apps.
Yes.
It seems like that was Twitter's strategy for some time, though. Maybe
not. It changed under him.
Okay.
Two, you say that Wall Street's been chasing after executives. Wall Street hasn't been causing the carousel of executives that has happened under Costello. Most damagingly when it comes to the head of product, which has been cycled through regularly. They hired someone last year who had tweeted 72 times ever, former head of Google Maps. And finally, I think they found someone good with Kevin Weil, who I think has been doing a good job. But the reality is there had been a loss of credibility when it comes to just the day-to-day management of the company. And I think you saw that reflected in Twitter, all this turmoil. I mean, Twitter has had a history of turmoil. And to some degree, Costello settled that down. But the fact of the matter is there was wholesale changes in the executive suite every year still. And the third thing, though, the most damaging one, at least for him specifically, was with the last earnings report, they lost credibility with Wall Street. And they had sold this story that our slow user numbers are okay because we're growing revenue like crazy, but then the revenue slowed. And the problem is you can do a pivot and a turnaround as a public company. Sorry, that's the most recent analysis as behind the blog. I can send you a link.
I should just subscribe. That's what it is. I should just pay for the newsletter. It's only $100 a year, for crying out loud, Leo. Don't be so cheap.
The problem though is
do it right now.
As long as Costello was in charge, they weren't going to have the room and freedom to do the sort of innovations and product changes that they need to do. And so my problem with the weird thing though is this is all a timing thing. When it comes to building technology, we all know it takes years before you actually see the finished product and it come out. And so the stuff that's happening. So the problem though is that works on the other side. The problems that Costello had with the last earnings report and over the last several months, those seeds were sown a couple of years ago, and he's just reaping them now. Now, it may be the case that Twitter's already turned the corner and that they turned the corner under Dick Costello. And in that respect, it's not fair that he has to go now when Twitter is now making the sorts of changes and releasing products they need to do. Unfortunately, life isn't fair. He's reaping kind of the perception matters, and the perception is that Twitter is struggling now. Again, even if the struggles now are manifestations of struggles from 2 years ago internally. And so I think it was right for him to go. And my problem with this lightning release now is it's not even going to be ready for a few months. So why not hold off on it, let the new CEO come in, whoever it may be, and then release all these new products like, wow, it's fantastic. And of course, we all know all those products were started before the new CEO came on board. But like the story you tell matters, perception matters. And I would love to have seen them usher in the new CEO with the sense of momentum and things are going forward, and extend the grace period that any new CEO gets by a few months, by a few quarters. And so I'm a little like, I think in general, there's lots of stuff going in the right direction for Twitter. But as usual, it's just kind of a jumbled mess.
I now have the entire
monologue.
No, that's good. I think you make actually an excellent point. I didn't realize that Costello had been running the place since 2010.
Yeah, he came out as COO in 2009 and took over as CEO in 2010.
And so it's entirely his doing to abandon the third-party developers, the developers that made Twitter the success they were, and pull it back in. I understand why they did it. They wanted to monetize the website and monetize their own apps.
And you see a lot of other companies doing the same thing, so there's no guarantee other executives wouldn't have done the same thing. But yeah, that's really interesting insights, Ben, because from the outside, it always looks like Twitter's fairly stable. It's not burning up the charts, but it's got, some monthly active users. It seems to be finding interesting ways to make revenue. And then you hear about all of these things going on inside, which are just utter turmoil. I think if you get the right person in charge that can actually stabilize that personality aspect of running the business, Twitter is in really good health otherwise, no?
Yeah, I mean, to a degree they are. I mean, again, their revenue continues to grow, even with the shortfall last quarter. It continues to grow very, very well. And they're a $2 billion company. The challenge for Twitter is there's a question as to what's the ceiling on that, in particular because their user growth numbers have stalled or slowed down significantly. And the concern for that is they are close to, at least according to Chris Sacca's post, last we know publicly is 700 million. Chris Sacca said close to 1 billion abandoned accounts. And the reason why that's so challenging is usually the struggle for a company is to make users aware of their product and get them to try it. Twitter doesn't have that problem. Everyone knows about Twitter. And by the numbers, everyone has tried Twitter, and the vast majority of people decided it's not for me. And the challenge is it's much harder to get someone to give you a second chance than it is to get them to give you a first chance. And that's why Twitter spends a lot of time talking about logged out users and all the other users we reach, because there is real concern they may have missed the boat when it comes to getting everyone on the service regularly.
But if Twitter is becoming more of the direction that they're going with the Lightning thing, and with actually, honestly, with what Jason proposed, they focus on in his piece that I most identified with, which was video and more of a broadcast service. Twitter is full of lurkers, and there's basically a read-only mode that the majority of people engage with, and so they don't need people to come back as users in the same way that a TV network they need viewers more so if they're really becoming your window on what's happening right now, or your window on the key events and trends of the world. So that relationship is not the Facebook user uploading all of their baby photos and personal information to be shared with a close network. It is the television viewer, it's the film goer, it's the music listener.
That's an excellent point. Those billion people might come back as viewers, as consumers, not as creators, and you don't care if they're creators.
Yeah, but the problem is those viewers not logged in are worth a fraction of what they are if they're logged in, because they can't be tracked and they can't be served.
Well, they're seeing the ads. They're seeing the ads.
No, it's fine. It's a perfectly fine business. The problem is it's a business that doesn't justify their current valuation. Their current valuation is based on the idea they will have a large base of users that they know, that they are logged in, that they understand. Twitter has a very fascinating insight onto its logged in users because it understands your interests, which is even more compelling than the people I know or the number of babies I have. The problem is that's what their valuation has primarily been based on. And the reality is they may be more of a broadcast network, which is a fine business, but that's the business Yahoo is in. And last I checked, Yahoo isn't worth $25 billion.
Although it's also the business YouTube is in. So it sounds to me like Twitter just needs to get on figuring out how to get people to log in for reasons other than posting.
And maybe the answer is that Google absorbs its users, and now you're always logged in, because we're always logged into Google. And so Google Now actually becomes Google Now, which is Twitter. And whatever they're calling Google Now it becomes some other smart recommendation thing. But this is happening right now. Check it out.
You know that if Google bought Twitter, it would be gone in 5 months.
No, I don't think that's true. Well, first off, Yahoo is worth more than $25 billion, but that's because of Alibaba. I was talking about the core Yahoo business. But two, you guys just said the point. YouTube, Google, the whole point of Google Plus and why Google Plus was much more of a success than people realize is the big overarching thing was the architectural changes to Google's sites to make them all have a shared common login and to make sure we're all logged in all the time.
Right. And shared data.
Actually, it turns out 5 years ago, most people weren't logged in most of the time.
Right.
Now they all are. And so Google is building that profile of you that is super duper valuable. And so it's not like YouTube for that reason alone.
Very interesting. Boy, I'm glad I just paid $100 to get Stratechery. Seriously, great insights.
And I should explain, especially to my fellow guests and hosts, I have sunglasses on now.
Because of the PRK.
Because I'm cool. You know. And then second, because of the surgery.
Yeah.
I had to turn up my monitor to get some light, and that was causing discomfort.
You had me at cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull off a Terminator kind of look since we were talking about the
so it's
future
cool and also bionic eyes.
Yeah, I mean they're basically the same term.
Speaking of Jason Calacanis, I'm going on vacation for 3 weeks. Coming. What? I know.
That is awesome.
Next week, Becky Worley will host. Ian Thompson and David Prager will join her. For the 4th of July weekend, July 5th, Jason Calacanis will host. We don't know who he's going to invite. I hope it's not that Ross fellow, but we know he will be here hosting the show, and Kevin Rose will be doing it on July 12th. You can ask him about his move to New York City. He's now the CEO of Hodinkee.
What is it? Why do all his businesses have these weird names? What is going on?
Hodinkee. Hodinkee is a watch website. Kevin Rose is all in on designer watches now. His whole company, North and everything, merged with Hodinkee. I know, it's a strange name.
I mean, I guess that's what happens when you sell your company and make all that money.
You know what, Hodinkee? We mock it. We mock the name, but it is actually
they made it mockable.
The number one online wristwatch magazine in the world. But you remember the name, Hodinkee. Kevin explained it to me, and I can't even understand it.
He can explain it further when he's
He'll
hosting,
explain further when he hosts the show on July 12th.
Should be the first story. It's like, why is it called this?
He's moving though. He's moving to New York here. He's gonna be in your neck of the woods. You gotta chill with Kevin. He's great.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to. I got nothing against.
Wonderful.
I've never met Kevin actually.
Yeah.
I don't think.
No, you'll love him. You'll love him.
Yeah, good.
Hey, if you missed anything on
neighborhood, our prices are too high already.
Oh yeah, out there in Brooklyn, it's crazy. Actually, Kevin's going to do the same thing to New York he did to San Francisco, by the way.
No, don't bring those people with
him. He's going to ruin the place.
New York we already have like the Russian billionaires. I think New York can absorb Kevin Rose probably better than the Bay Area did.
Well, we shall see. It's a real challenge. He's throwing down the gauntlet. All right. Kevin could ruin this San Francisco. He's ready for the new challenge. No, of course not. Hey, our show today brought to you by Harry's. I'm going to talk about shaving in a second. Before we do that, though, Tom Merritt has the week ahead.
Okay, coming up on June 23rd, BlackBerry earnings. Also that day, O'Reilly Solid kicks off. The Red Hat Summit kicks off that same day as well in Boston. June 26th, an IPO for Alarm.com. And then looking ahead to July 8th, this is for you, High-Tech Ag Pilot, the Ag Tech Summit in Salinas, California.
Holy cow. DailyTechNewsShow.com. That's where you'll see it all.
That was awesome.
It's amazing. It's like falling off a bike, isn't it? Get all scraped up.
Yeah, exactly. You have to put that Bactine stuff on it.
Terrible. Here's what you missed. If you missed anything this week on Twit.
Previously on Twit.
I'm a 48-year-old man, so I'm not on Twitch, but
I'm telling you, Leo plays Cup Boy. It's going to be huge. It's the new MMORPG for people over 50.
This Week in Law.
One of the original patent trolls appears to be going out of business, deciding to stop pursuing these kinds of cases.
This reflects patent reform occurring in the courts and patent reform occurring in Congress.
Security Now.
LastPass's network breach. Of course, the press went crazy.
Is there a better solution? Is this mean that we shouldn't be using LastPass?
I'm not leaving. I'm staying with them.
Android App Arena.
This week's big app isn't just a game, it's a movie and a music video starring David Hasselhoff. As Kung Fury, you travel back in time to battle it out with Kung Fuhrer, aka Adolf Hitler. But I implore fans of this era of gaming to play Kung Fury for 5 minutes without breaking a smile.
Twit for justice.
Here he comes. Oh my, it's a giant carrot. If you remember Cab Calloway, you'll love Cuphead. I can't wait to get this game.
Duty 27.
Is it really? Is David Hasselhoff in Kung Fuhrer?
He wrote the theme song and sings it, and it's super authentic, total 80s shtick. It's awesome.
Wow. Can't wait to see that. Our show today brought to you by Harry's, the best shave experience you'll ever have. Guys, I know no one really enjoys shaving. Certainly not Jack Dorsey. But maybe if Jack Dorsey had found Harry's, well, it'd be a whole different world today, huh? Harry's is amazing. These guys, actually, one of them was a co-founder of Warby Parker. And there's a great article about Harry's, where was it, Business Insider? I'll have to see if I can find it, where they talk about, so they wanted to do, razor blades direct, but they wanted to do it right. They did some investigation. They found out that there are really only 2 factories in the whole world that make the best razor blades, and they bought one of them. That's what venture money will help you do. They bought the factory, and now, because they're selling direct to you from the factory, you get a great blade designed for performance, for sharpness, for durability, and you get it at a great price. About $4 a blade for the Gillette Fusion, half that for a Harry's blade, and it's better. Plus, Harry's will give you a great, it's too late for Father's Day, but if you forgot Father's Day, man, quickly go to harrys.com, get that Winston set. You can get it monogram with Dad's initials, or the Truman, $15 for the Truman, and you get 3 blades, a razor handle, the incredible Harry's, either the shave cream or the foam gel. You get the travel holder for the Harry's, which don't undersell that. That's really valuable. And you can take $5 off when you use the offer code TWIT5. So now we're talking $10. You don't have to tell Dad that you only paid $10. You get a great razor, great handle, and then every month or every other month you get blades from Harry's. It's just a more efficient company, which means you get a better price and a better blade. And, of course, Harry's guarantees your satisfaction. I shave every morning with my Harry's. I love them. In fact, I think we had to have 3 or 4 Harry's in the house because you know what? She likes them too. Harrys.com. Use the offer code TWIT5 to get $5 off your first purchase. TWIT5 at Harrys.com. Everybody sent me the Harry's article, and I'm trying to remember where I saw that. Sent me links and stuff. Oh, well. It's a great story. They spent $100 million on the razor blade factory. All right.
I do think, though, I mean, you made the kind of VC offhanded remark. It's interesting because I know you know this, Leo, but I think in general there tends to be this perception that, oh, it's not fair. They have VC money, blah blah blah, or like there's this idea that it's this candy jar that you get to just dip into and there's no consequences for it. I mean, the VC money like has to be earned back. Or
anybody who has seen Silicon Valley, do you get Silicon Valley in Taipei?
Well, I don't.
Because we all know this. If you've watched that HBO show, which has now concluded its 2nd season, we know the consequences of venture money.
Well, you're seeing it in Twitter right now. People are like, why doesn't Twitter do this, or why do they go public, or investors are so mean? And the reason why Twitter is a public company is because they had a ton of venture money that paid for Twitter to dink around for years while figuring out what they wanted to do with this great product they had. And that venture company needs an exit. And so they went public, and now they have to deal with Wall Street. And like all this is interconnected. And so it's just, I just find it funny. On one hand, people will say, oh, they have venture money, it's so easy for them. I'm saying, again, I'm not saying you were saying that, but people do have that sort of attitude. And then the flip side, they'll be like, oh, why are investors so mean to Twitter? Just let them be a little business. And like all this stuff is interconnected. You don't get one without the other.
Well, and there's reasons why you might want to go out and raise $125 million. One of them would be that you see the best way to make your business work is to buy the factory. And then there's reasons why you don't. I don't want anybody to tell me what to do. And so we're very content to grow Twitter at a slow pace and spend only the money we have. Yeah, sure, we could grow at a much faster pace. We could be like Revision 3, which had an exit and everything, and the investors got paid back. And but I kind of prefer this model. And Tom, you got a great model. We should mention DTNS at Patreon. It's patreon.com/acedetect.
Yeah, you can go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support as well. That takes you to all different, because we take Bitcoin and stuff like that.
You've done really well. I think you're one of the real success stories there. You're $16,000 a month now.
I feel like people who say, oh, they've got VC money are just people saying they wish they had VC money. It's just a different way.
I wish I had the money. I just don't want the VCs.
Right, exactly. And so that's the trade-off, right? And Patreon and Kickstarter and all of these companies are providing a really interesting experiment in, how far can we go down the idea of cutting out business models. I think it's very similar to branded content as well, where people are trying to figure out, well, can we actually pay to make credible content directly on the advertisers? It's similar to ad reads like you've done for years in Twit. These are all just different ways of figuring out how can we fund what we're doing. And so, I'm lucky enough that it's worked out well for me on Patreon.
Where do you come down on somebody like Pebble Watch? So Pebble went to Kickstarter the first time, and they had one of the most successful Kickstarters of all time, created the company, really. But then after the companies of, going concern, they went back to Twitter to raise money again, this time $20 million to create Pebble Time. Is that kosher?
At least they were transparent about it. They said, we don't need to do this, but this is where we started, so we wanted to give people a chance to pre-order, essentially.
But that's what Kickstarter says exactly what they are not. They are not a store.
No, I know. And Pebble had to be very careful about how they worded that. But I think Pebble honestly was trying to honor their roots. And you see a lot of, there was a video game announced at E3 in the Sony press conference, Shenmue 3, where they're using Kickstarter as sort of the launch pad for it to kind of collect some money at the beginning, but they certainly aren't getting all the money they would need to make it. And they wouldn't need to have to do it that way. It's just another way to get the word out and build a list of the most passionate fans.
I had actually a good conversation with Chris Hardwick. I was on the Nerdist on Thursday. I think that show comes out in a few weeks. We talked about Veronica Mars. And that's an example of really the production company that made the original Veronica Mars said, nobody wants this. We're not going to make it. And then the guy behind it said, well, what if I went to Kickstarter and demonstrated, look, it's not going to be raising enough money to make it, but if I demonstrated a real interest, people shelling out actual money, would you make it then? And he did. Well, I don't remember what he raised for Veronica Mars. A lot of money.
$2 million, yeah.
Wasn't enough, so Fox or whoever made more, put more in, and it was a flop. So I don't know what do you get out of that?
The people's flop, Leo. The people
were wrong.
Supported that flop.
Well, I mean, I think it's fine. I mean, when you ask if it's not kosher according to Kickstarter's own definition of what their site is about. To take this full circle, Kickstarter has $10 million in venture capital. So if it turns out this is the best way to build a business around it, I'm sure they'll be happy to
they'll do it
to make it kosher.
They'll do it. Rob Thomas raised, it turns out, $5.7 million to make the Veronica Mars movie, and that's about what it made. So there you go. There you go.
Broke even-ish.
Yeah.
But not every one of these is going to work, right? We look at an individual case, and we want to.
That's
some
true.
of us want to be judgmental, but you need a lot of these kinds of flops to be able to find out what works and what doesn't.
So did have anybody got the Pebble time? Anybody seen
Brian
it yet?
Brushwood has it. He loves it.
He loves it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
He got the Apple Watch and the time.
Yeah, and he prefers it to the Apple Watch?
Yeah, I don't want to put words in his mouth there, but I know he loves the time.
I've got the Apple Watch. I've got the Android Wear Watch. I don't have the time. I backed the original Pebble. Gave it to you, Chris. Chris is now... No, I gave it to Chad. That's right. Chris, you had it. And now you're going to Apple Watch.
We should have. Yeah. You should put like tracking pixels of some kind, Leo, in all the devices you have seeded into the world over the years. I think it's a pretty significant path that you've created for that technology.
Johnny Apple's seed for devices. I think the Apple Watch is dopey. It doesn't do anything for me at this point.
I wore it for a month.
Yeah.
Then gave it to my producer, Jenny Josephson, to wear for a month to see if I'd miss it. And I kind of forgot I gave it to her.
But you're not a watch wearer.
No, I'm not. It's a good point. I wasn't wearing a watch before that.
Right. So I don't know if it means anything. I guess I don't know.
It certainly didn't turn me into a watch wearer.
Yeah.
At that.
Yeah. Not that compelling.
No, I think that I'm interested on that point because I have it and like it, and I've worn it every day since.
Oh, you have?
I have. But I was a watch wearer before, so to me, it's a watch that does more. It shows the time, and it also shows, for me, my favorite is the temperature. And I like the notifications. Again, I had already taken the step to kind of curb my notifications on my phone long before then, so it was I didn't get the overwhelming notification issue that some people complained about. But I mean, I frankly think that's how Apple should have marketed it. It's like it's a watch that does more, and then over time, let the additional functionality reveal itself. Which, I mean, I think the most compelling functionality anyway is the way in which it might let you interact with your world, right? You can kind of see it with Apple Pay, but imagine if your car started with your watch or your house unlocked with your watch. And I think that's a realistic long-term vision, but there's no need to sell it that way now. It's like with the iPhone. The iPhone was a phone that did more, and Apple didn't need to sell it in 2007 as the most important computer in your life, and we'll actually have people in the Wall Street Journal writing articles that Apple should discontinue the Mac. Like, they didn't need to say that in 2007, even if that was the future. And it just feels like the company got a little ahead of itself. And the apps are terrible because of the hybrid app thing. Like, why be a little patient and wait for the apps to be ready? You know, like, watch it without apps is what I think they should have done. I think it would have really crystallized what the watch is and what it's not in a way that would have been beneficial to the product.
2007, Ben, I don't know if you remember, it was a simpler time. It was a more innocent time for our industry, for our nation. And so we got to keep that in mind. The idea that they would launch without apps, the way they did the phone, I don't know if they could afford that again. I mean, they launched that phone without basic phone stuff too. And they launched it without basic computer stuff like cut and paste. And they were cut a lot of slack for that. But seeing how much they learned and earned from having an app marketplace, it feels like they wouldn't want to repeat that probation period of just native apps.
Well, and you had a pretty credible competitor in Pebble and Android Wear.
But credible in what respect? Like credible as in they exist, but no one actually is wearing any of this stuff. I mean, the reality is, let's play it out. They launch without an app store, and every review is like, oh, like instead of saying it's slow and frustrating, because all the built-in apps are speedy and snappy. Like oh, it's great. I mean, you need it? Of course you don't need it. You don't need a watch, but boy, it's really handy to have this extra stuff on your wrist when you need to see it. Look down, see the temperature, see my next appointment. And then the apps are, man, won't it be great once they have apps? It gets a ding because they aren't there. But it's a optimistic thing. It's like, imagine how great it's going to be when they arrive. Instead, they launch these hybrid half-ass apps. Sorry, I don't know if you can say that on the show.
No, it's true, though. You can say it if it's true.
But that the net result is to make it a worse experience.
Right.
And to make the perception of the watch worse than it ought to be. And frankly, I think it's troubling. Like what makes Apple great is its ability to focus on delivering the best possible experience at the expense of features. And then what they do is they iterate. Like this is what Apple does. Every product they launches with missing something important, but what is there works perfectly. That's not what happened with the watch. What is there does not work perfectly because the apps stink. And they
do you think they were afraid that people would look at the watch and say, it just doesn't do enough?
That's like, since when is Apple afraid?
Yeah.
Like that's what worries me. Sure, let people say that and deliver something that is great, that works great, which again, I think the watch works great except for the apps.
Right.
Like all the other stuff works very well, and deliver that and let people be frustrated that it's not good enough yet.
I'd argue they have trouble with the UI as well. I feel like the UI is not good. And the stem and the button and the twiddle and the fiddle.
It takes a lot of learning to catch on
but
to.
It's
just not a good UI.
Once the whole app part is gone, though, the UI simplifies considerably because you don't have, because a big problem is there's almost these two modes, right? There's the app mode and then there's the watch face mode. Like once there's only one mode, all that stuff gets a lot simpler. And so that it actually solves multiple problems with it. I mean, I agree with you that especially at the beginning, it's confusing. Which again, I think begs the question, why make it confusing so we can deliver half-ass apps when we know we can deliver full apps in 6 months?
Well, and also there's a consideration. I don't think they're going to update the hardware yearly as they have with the phone and the pad. I feel like there's a risk to coming out with another one in the spring. And they're probably much more likely to go a 2-year cycle or a 3-year cycle, right?
Well, I mean, Mark Gurman released a report this week, giving details about the next one that's supposed to come next year.
Right.
I would expect them. I see your point, but I think it will be a yearly
risky,
thing.
especially if you sold $17,000 ones.
People,
that's risky.
If you bought a $17,000 watch, you're going to afford to buy another one next year. I mean, the reality is
unless
the
$17,000
watch
college tuition.
Oh man, that's a harsh thing to say. Wow.
Who is buying a $17,000 Apple Watch with their kids' college tuition?
No, I hope not.
I'm not sure that's Apple's problem. The reality is I calculated this out before, but I can't remember what it was. So 17,000, divided by 350 equals 40. So the $70,000 watch is 48 times the entry level watch. Last I checked, there are a lot of people in the world making more than 48 times the amount of money I make.
Right.
So on a relative basis, the people buying the $17,000 watch are actually spending less than I am buying. Actually, I'm about to stay on a steal one.
Well, Okay, that's interesting. I mean, one of the things they said in one of the earnings calls, I think last year about the iPad is we just didn't know what the update cycle would be for people. We were guessing because it was a new product. And I think they're doing the same thing with the watch. They don't know when the market's, am I willing to buy a new watch every year? We don't know that.
Yeah, no, that's a very fair question. And it's a reason why, I think particularly in the short term, the impact of the watch on their financial results will be modest. And I think that's a great point. I mean, and I would expect they're supporting the iPad all the way back multiple generations. I would expect they do the same for the watch. Then again, you'd expect the watch, any product in its first few years, that's when it progresses the most. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. I mean,
FC. We're gonna move on because we're almost out of time, and I just want to quickly a few things get in here. FCC levying its biggest fine ever on AT&T, $100 million for misleading people, saying you have an unlimited data plan when in fact it was going to be throttled. It really comes down to, and if you ask me, what's your definition of unlimited?
Without limit.
Yeah, but without what kind of limit?
Yeah, and the FCC is proposing the fine. AT&T's got 30 days to respond to it. And what they're saying is you weren't clear enough about the implications of the throttling.
There was a limit on speed, but not a limit on data.
And they don't communicate that at the point of sale. And that's
they need to be more clear about that.
I actually got a text message last week for the first time. My iPhone is powered by AT&T. The iPad is on Verizon, so I get a little backup thing. But this is a text message that came in on June 14th, 11:46 a.m. AT&T free message that they didn't charge me for this rebuke. Your data has reached 75%. Of the 5 gigabyte network management threshold. The network management, which is nothing I've ever heard of before. If you exceed 5 gigabytes this month, you may experience reduced data speeds at times and in areas that are experiencing network congestion. Wi-Fi helps you avoid reduced speeds, aka get off
our network. Get off our network, Baratunde! Snap-a-tunde!
I'm grandfathered I'm grandfathered into an unlimited from back in the day.
And they want to get you off of that, man.
They do, and I'm calling in like 10 gigs a month. This last month I was at 13.
They keep offering me that 10 gig deal. They say, hey, you could save a couple $100 a year if you would just switch off this unlimited plan. And I say, no way, especially since you're going to be paying a big fine.
Yeah. I mean, the reality
is fine for AT&T though?
$100 million? I don't know.
I mean, it's a big fine in the FCC's history, but how much of a percentage of AT&T's?
How many Apple Watches is that? Huge loss for free speech in Europe. Mike Masnick at Tech Dirt writing about the European Court of Human Rights, Delphi versus Estonia. Delphi is a news site in Estonia, Russian and Estonian news site, in which commenters were saying bad things. The court said that even if a website took down comments after people complained, it could still be held liable. It should have anticipated bad comments.
Yeah, T2T2 runs our chat room, is Estonian, and he made a point of emailing us at Daily Tech News Show and saying this is only the European court determining whether the Estonian court applied its own rules properly. This only applies to Estonia, so it has a more limited impact than you might think. And Estonian laws are different than the rest of Europe on this sort of thing. The comments were deemed by the courts in Estonia to be unlawful because they were vicious.
They were hate speech, basically.
Yeah, and because of the way in which the comments section was set up, essentially. There's still some troubling things in how the Estonian courts determined this, saying that Delphi should have known ahead of time that people might post these types of comments.
But that's good to know that it really only applies to Estonia. It's the European court ruling on Estonian law, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Here's another one that's not clear. Windows 10 will be free not only to Windows 7 and 8 users, but to anybody who signed up for the beta program, which, by the way, is still open if you go to insider.window.com, or Microsoft.com. It's not. This is so confusing. Gabe All saying I'm going to have to ask Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley what the hell this means. Because we've seen this before, but Microsoft implying that pirates, for instance, would get to upgrade to Windows 10 and no longer be pirates. They clarified later, no, that's not the case. So I don't know. But if this is true, it's basically saying anybody who wants to can get Windows 10 for free. And a real Windows 10, like you install it, you get updates, you're licensed. That would be
the reality is it doesn't really matter. Something like 90% or 85% of Windows revenue comes from Windows that's installed on new PCs. So the upgrade revenue stream has always been a relatively meaningless one. And over the last few releases, they've been moving in this general direction. It's just another sign of how the world has shifted. Previously under Microsoft's feet, and now they're a little more, much more aware that it's happening and moving forward. I think the other thing that's interesting is, Microsoft did another reorg this week, which really undid Ballmer's reorg at the end of his time there, which was I wrote the time, but it was disastrous even then. And it's a very smart one. What I think is most interesting is Windows is in its own kind of corner, and all the hardware stuck there, including Xbox. And I think the way
Terry Myerson, who created Windows 10, is running the whole division now.
Right. But I think the way to think about it is Microsoft has placed their bets on the cloud. That's one division, and cloud and enterprise, and kind of apps and productivity. That's not the name of it, but is the other division. And those are the ones that matter, and everything else is in this Windows division. And I don't think I think there's a clear delineation between future and past in this reorganization, and I think that's interesting.
It is. Boy, is it changed. Stephen Elop, who was a Microsoft employee, went to run Nokia, was acquired with the Nokia acquisition, now out. Mark Penn, the pollster who was fired from Hillary Clinton's campaign last time around, and it was the guy who created the Scroogled campaign for Microsoft, out. He was in charge of Vision, I think, in Microsoft. Which sounds like they just kind of put him in a room and said, go think about things. Chi Lu ascending. He was the search genius who came from Yahoo to Microsoft. He now is in charge of apps. So it is a shakeup, but it's Satya Nadella finishing kind of the transition.
Right, I think so.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Tom?
No, I was just going to mention that WinBeta article that you have in the lineup has a tweet from Gabe All that says they can upgrade from a Windows 7 or 8.1 system or from a system they clean installed with Preview ISO as long as they're using a registered MSA.
But that means a registered MSA is what, a Microsoft account? Or what is that? Yeah.
And so that's where you got to talk to Paul and Mary Jo. You're absolutely right.
What the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
We might even have to talk to Gabe. Hey, we launched our new website this week. I hope you are enjoying the new Twit. I think we'll probably have to do a special where we describe some of the features and so forth. One of the first things people told us is, we don't like the way your download button works, so we worked very quickly. That's the new screensavers. I don't know what's going on there. We worked very quickly to make the download button work more like you'd expect it. In fact, it comes from the fact that the MIME type coming from CacheFly, our provider, tells your browser stream it as you download it, and most people did not want that. There is a new download. HTML5 has a new download attribute which we're using. So if you're using Chrome and you click one of the buttons, it will just start downloading as you'd expect. If you're using Safari or maybe Firefox, one of the browsers that doesn't support that new HTML5 command, just right-click and download as you used to do on the old site. And we're working with CacheFly on a new way of doing this, and I think we'll be able to make this work for everybody. But we do appreciate hearing from you about the new site. We're getting a lot of comments. If you want to understand what we were trying to accomplish, click the yellow button at the top where it says Learn More, and there's kind of a description of the planning and what went into this. It's really much more than you see. It's an API driven by Drupal that will be. We are already 30 people have asked to get a key to the developer's API. Which excites me. It means that people are going to start looking at making apps. You can make your own website. Everything you need is there. We also know that the Kodi and Plex apps have stopped working. They were relying on a feed that was never an official feed that came from our old Drupal site. When we took the Drupal site offline, that stopped working. If you are one of the developers of the Kodi or XBMC or Plex app, contact me. There's a much better way to do it. We got an API now, and you can actually do a really nice app a lot more easily than using the old RSS feeds. We'd like to help you and make that work again. But please let us know. bugs@twit.tv if you find a bug, or you just email me, leo@leoville.com. I appreciate hearing from you. Tom Merritt, so great to have you back. Love seeing you. Everybody in the chat room is so happy. Please come back soon.
Well, thank Lisa for inviting me, and thanks for having me on. And it was good talking tech, man.
DailyTechNewsShow.com. And don't forget /support if you want to help out in the production of it. You're getting close to video. I want to see that. I want to see them push you into video.
That's cruel of you, but yes, that is where we chose.
We should suffer together.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. We got a great crew over there,
nice.
and thanks to everybody who supports us there as well.
You're doing great. Great to see the beard of Merritt. Thank you so much, Baratunde. You're looking so hip, so cool. Sunglasses become you, my friend.
Thank you, man. Eye surgery is the greatest, and it's really nice to be back. I feel like this was a really intellectual and like industry deep show. I've never been on with Ben before. An honor to share with you. I believe I've been on with Tom way in the past, and glad to see you're doing so well.
Tell us about Cultivated Wit.
Cultivated Wit, that's the company I co-founded after leaving The Onion a few years ago. We are where comedy meets technology, and the principal thing we're up to is our Comedy Hack Day event series and universe. It's we take hackathons, we add comedians and designers to them, and people intentionally come up with useful and useless and hilarious things. We're coming to LA next. We just wrapped in New York City, where the winner is an app called Got This Thing. It's a calendar app, what they call a no-ductivity app, and it allows you to have an instant excuse to not help your friends by auto-filling your calendar with real events from your local area.
And then just share it with them and say, you see, I'm busy. I'm very busy.
Yeah, and then you open it up, they're all sold out. They can't tag along. So that's I Got This Thing.
Yeah.
But our next Comedy Hack Day is coming up in Los Angeles. Maybe, actually, Tom, it'd be great to get you involved. It'll be a location to be determined, but the weekend of August 21st. We had Michael Ian Black as one of our judges the last time around, Anil Dash, Christina Warren from Mashable, and Aparna Nancherla. The community's growing. The apps are getting better. The laughs are getting laughier. So please check us out at cultivatedwit.com and enjoy the Comedy Hack Day. And this is the last plug for Baratunde.de that Mark Eglin put together.
Love it.
The audio service that reads tech essays so you don't have to, that I'm helping temporarily seed by using my name.
Is he looking for more readers? I'd love to do that. That'd be so
I'm sure we are, and I'll put someone in touch with your people.
Have my people.
You and email don't.
No,
you're as
I
as I am, basically, which is terrible.
I don't want to read that.
So thank you for the volunteering to join this movement for sound. It's a sound plan.
And don't forget Snapatunde. If you're on the Snapchat, all the kids are doing it.
Crazy stories. I'm loving that platform. It's playful. It's goofy. And my Snap art, for those who are listening live, will be up for another 2 hours. I'll export it and put it on probably my YouTube channel. So I'm Baratunde everywhere except Snapchat, where I'm Snapatunde.
And Baratunde, the feeling is likewise. And obviously, anyone whose background includes The Onion. I'm from Madison, Wisconsin, so feel Onion pride very, very deeply. So, no, it is great to meet you, and was thrilled to be on with you as well.
The Onion pride. Ben, of course.
And Tom and Leo, of course, as well.
Yeah, we love you
too, Ben.
Ben's insights, as you can tell, are deep and profound and must read at stratechery.com. There's a lot of free stuff there, but do as I just did, literally, moments ago, and pay $100 to get it all year long. Get the newsletter, because it's such great insights. You do a great job, Ben. It's great to see you again. Thanks for spending your early morning hours with us. I didn't realize it was Dragon Boat Festival weekend.
It was, yes. Saturday was Dragon Boat Festival. So I mean, there are still the races and stuff like that. What it entails for me is mostly eating a tremendous amount of food, which is always a plus.
Love it. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Baratunde. Thank you, Tom. Thank you all for being here. We do Twit Sunday afternoons, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 2200 UTC. Would you tune in live? Watch us. Join us in the chat room. We love having you, but if you can't, we always make on-demand audio and video of all of our shows available at twit.tv, the website, but also wherever you get your podcasts, your podcast app on your phone, iTunes, Xbox Music, all those places. Please subscribe. That way you'll get it each and every week. Thanks for being here. Thanks to our producer, Jason Howell, for putting together a great show. Our bookers, Tanya Hall. Tomorrow, who is on Triangulation tomorrow? I feel like it might be a great show. I should quickly check. I'll be back tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. We've got iOS Today, of course, at 12:30. And Triangulation tomorrow, if I could quickly open the document, will be
Jackie McNish. Is that
Jackie
right?
McNish,
Yes.
author of Losing the Signal. Justine will be joining us at the end of July. And then you are doing, while I'm gone, a Triangulation, Jason, about music recording with Dave Pensato and Herbert Trawick.
Yeah, Herb Trawick. They do Pensato's Place, a pretty fantastic show. But Dave Pensato is a Grammy Award-winning mixing engineer. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're getting each of our co-hosts here to do a Triangulation while I'm gone. Tanya and Jason and Padre will all host, so that's exciting. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week. Another twit is in the can. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks to our great studio audience doing the twit. Very patient, a 2-hour and 22-minute twit.
Doing the twit, baby. Doing the twit.